It's me. You guys just call me back when you have a chance. Bye. Hi. It's me. I miss your face. I was just calling to say hi. Call me back.
Thank you so much for coming out here with me, Christopher. I am having a wonderful time. You mean a lot to me, and I'm glad that you're having a blast. I am so out of breath.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm really trying to help you guys. I need you guys to help me too. Like,
yes,
we'll
ma'am.
do this as a team, but just don't.
So
fucking let me down,
the
please.
reason why we can't, like, I did think about this yesterday, that I would like to sit down with you once we have your text messages and the phone calls, and we can put them in a some type of easily looking, that we can sit down and look at them and compare them, and we can kind of get the context of how everything was going that night. I would like to do that with you. Unfortunately, so the download that we got yesterday is going to take multiple days to be analyzed. I probably won't have it back till next week. And then because you guys did have so many text messages, one of my analysts is working on getting those in order, so we can put something together where we can actually sit down and discuss it. But I do think that's something that I want to do in the near future, sometime probably next week.
I mean, I can do that. I don't mind giving you guys my time. I just need you guys to, like, help me with my employer and try to just help me brace for this media thing.
I'm with you. We definitely need to accelerate the case, because the more it takes, the less sure that they are of situation.
He murdered her. She's out of the picture. You're never going to know if she was pregnant. If he can get away with murder, you're not going to. I got divorced from my wife. You say, do you understand what I'm saying here? If she's gone,
But this...
Don't lead.
Hypothetically.
Please.
Yeah.
Don't
hypothetically.
lead on.
If she,
okay.
You understand where I'm going. If
right,
you didn't know.
You're leading into questions that are nothing with your.
If you didn't know, though.
Wait, Nick.
That she was there.
Did you hear what I said?
I'm following you.
Stop asking about it. She didn't have anything to do with it. She wasn't there that morning. She voluntarily cooperated with law enforcement. She provided us all the information. I'm not going to tell you where she's at. Stop. Leave me alone.
To be honest with you, like, I'm so much.
You like to talk, I can tell a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
400 when she was young. She'd crank out about 400 words a minute, gusts up to 600. A little thing can yak, man.
You're a talker, so I'm letting you talk.
I need to use the restroom.
Sure.
Can you
So-
give me some water while you're out there with
Sure.
me, please? Thank you.
Another bottle.
Yeah,
At least one.
let's move to
Sunday.
Sunday. Well, let me reverse something.
All right, just two quick notes here. If you are interviewing someone, especially someone who's cooperating like Nichol here, you should never shame them for talking. The entire point of getting Nichol there is to have her talk. And what does Kobach do? He makes little underhanded remarks about how much she talks. The last thing I would want to do is make her conscious about talking. I don't want her to be self-conscious about it. I want her to speak freely. If anything, I'd say, how about you tell me more? Open up a little bit with me. Right, let's just get crazy. Let's just talk. He's doing the exact opposite of what he should be doing.
Okay, so can you guys hear me now when I am talking? Are you guys able to hear me right now? Sound check, sound check. Guys, that was so weird. When I got back on, I was commenting in StreamYard, and when I comment through StreamYard, it's saying my comments aren't accepted because YouTube thinks that I'm spam. Like, I don't know what happened there. I'm so sorry about that. I'm so afraid my computer got hacked again, but I guess I won't find out till after this. But okay. All right, guys. Awesome. Okay, so there Deception Detective goes, making his great point that the last thing that he should be doing is, you know, humiliating Nichol Kessinger, even if in this subtle way, for talking, because that's exactly what he wants her to do, unless he has an ulterior motive or unless he's just a crappy interviewer. I think that most of us have established that, yes, he is a pretty crappy interviewer, right? I know some of you in the comments before we had to restart this were saying that he was flirting with her and, you know, all sorts of things. There are a lot of options as to what is going on here, but what we do know is that this is not a good interview. This is not good interviewing technique. And certainly Deception Detective and most other people who know what they're talking about agree. And again, please hit like, guys. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are wonderful and patient and amazing. So more of our friends can get this notification. All right, I'm going to keep playing it.
Did Nichol Kessinger get away with murder being an accessory? Or was she just another of Chris Watts' victims? I'm Deception Detective. I'm an attorney trained in statement analysis, and this channel exists to expose lies and manipulation. In today's video, we'll analyze Nichol Kessinger's interview with Agent Kobach to determine if she had guilty knowledge. This is the fourth video in my Nichol Kessinger series. Previously, we've seen her dodge questions about how she and Chris communicated, what she knew about Shanann's pregnancy, and what she and Chris discussed at the Lazy Dog mere days before the murders. I also highlighted the mistakes Agent Kobach made, which allowed her to get away with all that.
And now in this particular episode, I just skimmed it one time because I wanted to watch it mostly for the first time with you guys, but he knows a lot of mistakes that Kevin Kobach made, and everyone that I heard, you know, when I was really focusing on it, I think he is spot on. Now, when I was trying to fix that, whatever the heck just happened, somebody texted me and said, do I think that Nichol Kessinger knew that Shanann Watts was pregnant? Girl, have you been watching my videos? Yes, of course. She absolutely 100% unequivocally knew. In fact, one of my most popular Chris Watts, Nichol Kessinger uploads was just a few months ago, and it's called Nichol Kessinger. She knew everything. So we can talk about that later, and I'm also going to go over who Jim is because so many people have been asking that. I thought you guys were kidding, but I guess you're serious. So we'll do that after we listen to Deception Detective.
So we'll pick up where we left off in part 3, which is a pivotal part of the interview.
Okay.
This is the second biggest mistake Kobach made in this interview. So if you haven't seen part 3 yet, listen closely to see if you can catch it. For everyone else, this is even crazier the second time around. Without further ado, let's listen.
Saturday during your dinner, what kind of conversation did you guys have?
I don't even. So he's been trying to like eat a little healthier than he normally does, and he's always like been in the working out since I knew him, and he like tries to eat clean, but he was trying to like step it up a little bit, and nothing like the people who do like the competitions and the shows that are all super restrictive. And it's nothing like that. It's just like day-to-day general maintenance, but it's how I eat, and it's pretty healthy. And he's been losing a lot of weight. He lost, I want to say like 13 pounds in the time that we were hanging out. And honestly, when you start eating a little bit cleaner and you start working out a little bit harder, the first couple months, especially for a man, because they lose.
So if you haven't noticed it yet, Agent Kobach's question was, what was the conversation like at the Lazy Dog between you and Chris? Has Nichol answered that question? Not in the least. She's talking about how they're losing weight. And even now at this point, she's giving Kobach advice about how guys tend to lose weight and how it's tougher at the start. She hasn't said this is at all what they talked about. And even if it is what they spoke about, it was not the content of the entire 90 minutes of their sit-down dinner. The fact that Nichol is going on this tangent and can't even bring herself to say, this is what we talked about, should be a giant red flag to Kobach that he needs to let her finish responding and then bring her back on track. That's great. You talked about macronutrients and losing weight. I'm happy to hear it. What else did you talk about?
Now, guys, that is such a great point that the deception detective just made, because that very same point that he just made can be applied to a number of questions across all 4 interviews that Kevin Kobach did with Nichol Kessinger. He did the 2 in-person ones and the 2 phone interviews, because time and time again, she uses that same technique to distract him from what they're supposed to be talking about, so she does not have to answer the question. Probably Nichol Kessinger, who is not dumb, she's just a skanky empanada, caught on to the fact that that is, a method that's going to work with this dude. If I keep utilizing this, this manipulation technique, he's going to fall for it every time. And my gosh, guys, he does. So the question is Kevin Kobach dumb, or is he just making sure that she does not say anything that's incriminating because they absolutely positively don't want her to, because they have an agreement ahead of time, or a combination of both? I'm going to try to make some kind of a poll worded with less words, asking you guys that.
But he doesn't do that. So keep listening.
Lose weight faster. It's not something that's like that drastic to me, but it did stand out that it was like a little much. And so I was like, whoa, like maybe you're not eating enough macronutrients. So let me look at them. So he had been working on his MyFitnessPal app and like programming like all the stuff he eats, and I just started going through them, and I was like trying to figure out like where his ratios were, and we actually spent a lot of time doing that because he'd asked me to do it for him, because I just was at the point where I was like, if his weight loss slows down in a few weeks, he'll be fine, and if it doesn't, then his macros are a little off. It's not like that big of a deal, like in the workout community. This is like a very normal thing. But
did you have any other outside concerns, like potential drug use, alcohol use, any of that stuff? That
right. So this is where we wrapped up part 3 in the series. And it was because I wanted to really emphasize this point, the big mistake that Kobach made here. He asked her what they talked about at dinner. She gave an evasive, distracting response, and it actually worked. So Kobach actually got distracted by Nicole's response. She went on a tangent about losing weight. Now Chris is losing weight. And instead of marking down his question for later about whether or not she was concerned about how quickly he was losing weight, he asked it right then and there. So he effectively got distracted about finding out what they spoke about at the Lazy Dog like a day or 2 before the murders. Based on the comments I've seen, people say it was right before the murders happened, which is why this conversation is so important. Also in the DD forum at forum.deceptiondeck.com, I put some extra thoughts I had after part 3, and I actually cataloged some of the errors in Kobach's questions that I pointed out in part 3. So besides him asking questions but not waiting for the answers like he did there, where he said, what do you talk about the lazy dog, but never actually got the response, he also asked leading questions in the negative, where he says things like, you weren't aware Shanann was pregnant, right? And he also asked questions that wouldn't clarify the situation, even if Nichol answered them truthfully. Like his question in part 3 that we saw where he asked, well, earlier you told me you didn't know Shanann was pregnant, right? Even if she said yes or no, that doesn't tell us what she actually knew. It only confirms whether or not she said something to him out in the hallway before the interview.
That led you to go, oh, he's lost an extreme amount of weight in such a short period of time.
No, and I wouldn't call it extreme. It was just like, it was a lot. But I mean, when I first started working out, I dropped like 12 pounds in 2 weeks when I first started like hitting it hard with the diet. So the fact that he lost like that much weight, it wasn't, like I said, it was not a surprising amount. I just didn't want it to be like a sustained amount. But no, I didn't think anything weird of it just because of like how interknitted I am with the like workout community. And I know like this is possible, but it just, the thing that concerned me about it, I guess, and it wasn't even concerned, but the thing that like kind of red lighted me like, hey, this might be carrying on, is the fact that his macros were like pretty dialed in. Like I wrote them and he like didn't stay exactly on them, but his
I just have to say, oh my God, Skanky Empanada is so full of herself, regardless if she's using manipulation technique or whatever here. It just makes you cringe.
calorie intake was about where it needed to be. My experience anyways for like what he was trying to achieve. And so I don't know, he didn't seem to have a problem with it.
Remember, all this stemmed from trying to find out what they talked about at a secret rendezvous at a sports bar a day or two before Chris murdered his entire family. Instead of finding out what they spoke about, we're being told about his macros and his diet plan. And Kobach, unfortunately, seems to be totally distracted by this. So what you should do if you're in his situation, let's say you're interviewing an employee, or I know I have lots of psychologists. I also have lots of law enforcement who subscribe to my channel, who are members of the channel, who participate in the DD forum. What should you do? Well, you should notate that, right? So he has a big notebook in front of him. He should be using it. So you should note down, Nichol mentioned that Chris is losing a lot of weight. Drugs, ? Alcohol, ? Depression, ? And what you do is you follow up on that later. We are on the track right now of trying to find out what they talked about at the Lazy Dog. But Nichol has effectively distracted Kobach from that, and now we're off on another topic. So while that topic might lead somewhere, it could also be a rabbit hole. You need to note it and come back to it later once you've exhausted everything they talked about at the Lazy Dog.
Now, I just want to read this comment there. He makes such great points, but Kind Colorado says, how can anyone who knows a killer of 3 and this killer just killed less than 3 days ago be so chatty and nonchalant? Wacko. Well, you know what? What Kind Colorado says here, regardless of what manipulation techniques she's using or what she knows or she doesn't know, the fact that, yes, she was so intimately close with this man who annihilated his entire family in the most grotesque way just a matter of hours ago, and she can behave this way. This is not a case of her being in shock. She's not acting that way. There are not these indicators. It is so super pathological. I mean, that needs to be addressed at some level and, included in the equation when we're trying to figure her out. But really great point, Kind Colorado. Thanks. And hi, Mike Applegate. How are you doing?
This is like I said in part 3, a rookie interviewing faux pas. And in my comments of my previous videos, people have told me that Kobach is so bad at interviewing that maybe has some ulterior motive. And I'll give you my thoughts about that, as well as my thoughts about Nichol praising Shanann's mothering in part 3, and my thoughts about Dwayne Kessinger, Nichole's dad, being in the room. I have some counterintuitive thoughts about those things. So we'll go over those in a little bit. But right now, let's just see if Kobach ever follows up on what they talked about at the Lazy Dog besides macronutrients.
He liked where he was at with all of that.
So that was your main conversation Saturday.
That was like a big chunk while we were there, is like us actually going through, because I was like going through each item, like, why are your ratios off?
All right. So here Kobach has said, so that was the main topic of your conversation at Lazy Dog. Nichol never said that. And this is another mistake he constantly makes in this interview, is he feeds her words. He puts words into her mouth. If you were to rewind this video back to the beginning and listen to Nichole's answer, she never once said, this is what we discussed. He said, what was the conversation like? And then she goes into some general facts about Chris, that he was trying to lose weight and that he had a macro app. And at some point in time, she helped put in his macros into macro factors so he could lose weight. But she never actually said that was a topic of discussion at that dinner. She implied it by going off on this tangent in response to that question, but she never actually said it. And that is how most manipulators and deceivers will trick you. They will respond to your question, but it's not an actual literal response, right? It's a tangent.
Damn, could you imagine dating a guy like this? Like you couldn't even get away with a little white lie. He'd be like, I know what you did last summer and every other day of the year. But you know, the point that he makes here is, again, is such a great point. And I just want to add, this is why exactly what he was talking about right there is why I think that the situation with Kevin Kobach is more so number 2 than anything here. So the poll that I put up says, do you think that, let's see, what does it say? I don't know, something like, do you think Kevin Kobach is dumb or that he is just trying to make sure she doesn't say anything incriminating because what I want to say, but I have enough characters, because they have made an agreement in advance. The way that Kevin Kobach asks her those questions in the negative and feeds her the questions is why I tend to think it's number 2, that they have an agreement in advance and, you know, that's just what's up. And he really doesn't want her to say the wrong thing because he knows that they're going to be letting her off scot-free. It's an agreement. It's been made. It's signed and sealed. All she has to do is get through this interview without being a totally stupid empanada. But at the same time, I don't know if he's necessarily dumb. Maybe he is, but I just think he's a bad interviewer. Now, what I just said and what Deception Detective is going to tell you in a couple of minutes definitely don't agree with one another. And this is a point that I would like us all to discuss. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment here.
The other mistake Kobach made was Nichol never said this was the majority of their conversation. So even if there's a kernel of truth in her reply that they were talking about macronutrients, it might have just been when they sat down and looked at the menu and she said, hey, you know, the guacamole cup has a lot of fat. Maybe you should avoid that. Okay. What did you talk about for the rest of the dinner? She never said it would, that it was even the topic of their conversation, nor did she say it was the majority. But listen to what Kobach says here. He completely feeds words into her mouth.
In conversation set.
What he was trying to achieve. And so, I don't know. He didn't seem to have a problem with it. He liked where he was at with all of that.
So that was your main conversation Saturday?
That was like a big chunk.
That was your main conversation. He said that, not Nichol. The other thing to note here is even if it was the main topic of conversation, by saying it was the main topic of conversation means they spoke about something else. And that's what I'm curious about. For 4 videos now, I've been trying to determine what Nichol's involvement was in the murders, whether she helped Chris plan it, whether she participated in it, whether she helped him cover it up. Personally, I'm still of the belief that she was not involved at all. But that belief is just based off statistics. It's not based off anything Kobach has uncovered.
And he doesn't even know what we've uncovered. I just want to read a couple comments because as a Deception Detective here is doing his analysis, you guys are doing a great analysis here in chat too. And I saw some other great comments too before I started starring them, but I just want to read some of them that I starred. Veronica says, when she doesn't want to answer a question, check out her super low voice. It's abysmal of how she talks for everything else. I think that's such a great point. And then Amanda says, oops. NK reminds me of the person who would pretend to be an expert at any and every topic. And I think that speaks to the fact that she is a skilled manipulator. And I totally agree with that. And I think that is totally spot on. And then, oh gosh, Elena, am I saying that right? Elena? Yeah, I hope I am. Says, true Veronica, it's like her, I'm just one of the guys voice. Yeah, and I see all of that like happening as we're listening, hear all that happening as we're listening to the interview. You guys are super perceptive. I'm going to try to start more of your comments here so we can read them after he gives his analysis.
He hasn't given us any information one way or the other. The reason I'm on the fence about her involvement is because she doesn't answer like someone who actually participated in the murders, if you've seen parts 1 and 2.
Chunk while we were there is like us actually going through, because I was like going through each item, like, why are your ratios off?
Do you know where his kids or wife were that night?
On Saturday?
Yeah, his kid. Well, you know his kids are with the babysitter. Do you know where his wife is?
She's in Arizona.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because he told me.
Okay. Do you know what she's doing there?
I think she's on a business trip. He didn't even tell me right away. He actually told me, I think, like on Saturday or something. It might have been like Friday or something. I honestly don't remember. I just remember I was like really surprised where he's like, hey, like, I'm going to try to get a babysitter if you want to hang out or something like that. And I was like, why do you need a babysitter? Like, your wife's home. She's like, no, she's out of town. I was like, oh, okay.
Is there much conversation regarding that, her on being on a trip, or the children on during those conversations?
Not really. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday, and he just said really late.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that.
Okay.
All right. So Kobach is making another mistake, and this is one he's been making, I think, the entire interview, but I haven't pointed it out yet. So I'm going to read you a rule from the deception deck, and then you tell me if you can recognize the problem with Agent Kobach's questions as it pertains to this rule. So if you're not familiar, the deception deck is my 52 favorite rules for spotting lies and deception. Here's the rule I'm going to read to you now. Think about this rule and recall Agent Kobach's questions. Liars often fluctuate between past and present tense, reflecting a shift from recalling the actual memories in the past tense to fabricating details in the present tense. If a statement suddenly switches to present tense, it might be a fabrication. So listen to Kobach's questions here and ask yourself, how does this
Did you guys catch that? That's an important one. That's one that I definitely know of, just like in my training. Let's listen to what he says again, because he says it very simply right here. This is really important. Something you can, think about when you're talking to people in everyday life, wondering if someone's being honest with you or not. This is a really great tip. It's tried and true.
To fabricating details.
Let's see.
So if you're not familiar, the deception deck is my 52 favorite rules for spotting lies and deception. Here's the rule I'm going to read to you now. Think about this rule and recall Agent Kobach's questions. Liars often fluctuate between past and present tense, reflecting a shift from recalling the actual memories in the past tense to fabricating details in the present tense. If a statement suddenly switches to present tense, it might be a fabrication. So listen to Kobach's questions here and ask yourself, how does this taint Nicole's responses and make it harder for us to determine if she's lying?
That night?
On Saturday?
Yeah, his kids. Well, his kids are with the babysitter. Do you know where his wife is?
She's in Arizona.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because he told me.
Okay. Do you know what she's doing there?
I think she's on a business trip. He didn't even tell me right away. He actually told me, I think, like on Saturday or something. It might have been like Friday or something. I honestly don't remember. I just remember I was like really surprised where he's like, hey, like, I'm going to try to get a babysitter if you want to hang out or something like that. And I was like, why do you need a babysitter? Like, your wife's home. He's like, no, she's out of town. I was like, oh,
okay. Is there much conversation regarding that, her on being on a trip, or the children on during those conversations?
Is there much conversation? Do you know this? Do you know that? He's asking these questions in the present tense. So if Nicole answers in the present, it could just be that she's responding to him in the present tense because he's primed her to speak that way. In other words, it makes it harder for me to tell if she's fluctuating between her tenses because she's fabricating a detail. Like you've seen me do on my Amber Heard videos.
Now, he makes a really good point here because he says she might be switching tenses because he's primed her to speak that way. And the way that he's asking questions, which again, now, if Kevin Kobach is not dumb, if Kevin Kobach is if he's a very smart and savvy interviewer, and he is trying to get her she's trying to ensure that she does not say anything that is incriminating because they've made an agreement ahead of time. They know that they just want their one guy. They don't want to bring her up on any charges. Could he be fashioning all of these questions in such a way where she's going to answer them like in a certain way where she's not incriminating herself? I don't know if that made a lot of sense, but if you look at the points that he makes and say, was Kevin Kobach doing this intentionally? It kind of paints a whole different picture. Does that make sense?
Or is she fluctuating between past and present tense because that's how he's posing the questions to her? In other words, lots of the things Agent Kobach does makes our ability to determine the veracity of Nicole's statements virtually impossible.
Not really. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday, and he just said really late.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that.
Okay. So your conversations mainly
wait a
health
minute. Hold it.
related.
So I always, guys, this is okay. So let me just tell you this. Kevin Kovacs asked Nichol Kessinger about that 111-minute conversation a total of, I counted 9 times across the 4 times that he interviews her. And in those 9 times, that's like 9 different instances. And in those 9 different instances across those 4 interviews, he sometimes goes at it a few times. So it might be a total of like really 20 or more times, right? And I may have missed some times when he asked her about that. And every time she is so evasive about it. I mean, we all know that there's something significant there that she doesn't want to say. Listen to how, again, she answers the question about the 111-minute interview, or I'm sorry, the 111-minute phone conversation right here. This like hits me over the head every time.
It's because that's how he's posing her. In other words, lots of the things Agent Kovacs does makes our ability to determine the veracity of Nicole's statements virtually impossible.
Yes. And is he doing that on purpose? Is my question.
Not really. I just asked him what time she was coming home on Sunday, and he just said really late.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that.
Okay. So
that's about it. There's nothing really to talk about with that. And she just like ends it right there. And just look at her. Look at her.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about with that.
Okay.
She's
so
so deadpan with it. I don't know. That just really hits me every.
Conversations mainly health related.
Mm-hmm.
You guys return to your house, and then he goes home, and then you talk to him for a few hours on Sunday.
Did I? Are you asking me, or are you telling me?
I'm asking you.
Oh, I was like, I don't even know. Someday, honestly. So wait a minute. That was Saturday. We're talking about Saturday. We're not talking about Sunday right now.
Okay, so you're still on Saturday.
Yes.
You guys have a phone conversation when he gets home?
That was the day that he got the babysitter and I went out to dinner, not Sunday.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure
That's
you got your days right. So Saturday, yes, we went out. He had the babysitter. He went home. I'm sure we did. We always talk on the phone. And honestly, I mean, Mark asked me that the other day. He's like, how long are you on the phone? 15 minutes, 20 minutes? Like, you're going to have to look at the records.
So even when it seems like he might have a gotcha question, like, so you talked on the phone for 2 hours, right? Where he asks a loaded question in the affirmative, which we haven't seen him do. He quickly backtracks, right? So even when it seems
that, he said or when he asked a loaded question in the affirmative, which he has stated and which is known, that is the preferred type of interviewing question to get the right answer. And Deception Detective says, and we haven't seen him do that yet. WTF is up with that?
like he's bluffing, she calls him out. Well, are you asking me or telling me that you need to go check that? So overall, his technique is very poor. So I'll just address this here. In my previous video, there were a lot of comments also in the forum, in the live chat. I premiere every video and I am in the live chat during the premiere. So if you haven't joined a live chat yet, please do come join us. It's open to members and non-members. But lots of people were speculating that Agent Kovacs is simply just resigned to the fact that they have Chris dead to rights. So my personal opinion was maybe they think that we need to preserve Nichol as a witness, so we shouldn't attack her or discredit her in case we need her to testify against Chris. But other people, had other speculations, like maybe he was wooed by Nichol because she's so charming, or that he's corrupt, or that the dad has some sort of pull over him. So here's my thoughts on that so far into this analysis. And I put this into the forum 2 days ago. All right, so Agent Kovacs' interview approach was so weak that some commenters speculated what his true intentions were. In cases where bad intentions aren't obvious, I lean on Hanlon's razor. And this is a good rule of thumb.
Okay, now this is where I believe Deception Detective and myself disagree. So listen carefully. He's talking about the logical rule of Hanlon's razor, okay?
Right. Hanlon's razor is Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. So if someone
never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. So all of the screw ups in this interview and the complete lack for this interviewing that Kobach has done with her across 4 interviews, totaling over 8 hours of interview material. The fact that Kobach has gotten nowhere, are we supposed to just say if we can attribute that to stupidity, then we should not believe that it is due to malice? I don't know. I think that Hanlon's razor rule needs to have a sliding scale or a bell scale or something when it is extended over time, because that is an incredible length of time, incredible duration, an incredible amount of questions and answers and re-questioning that is covered for Kobach to just be stupid and to assume no malice. So that is why I disagree with that, with Deception and Detective on that. And Deception Detective, when you watch this, if you could respond to that, that would be absolutely amazing. I'd really appreciate it.
could just be stupid, it's better to side, to lean that way than to lean on them doing it deliberately because they're malicious or they're evil or they're corrupt. Throughout my Nichol Kessinger series, it's clear that Kobach might just lack proper interrogation skills. And then I went over the errors he made. All right, and I'll just address this here as well before we move on. I saw lots of comments, people saying, was Dwayne Kessinger, Nicole's dad, running the show? I thought about that. I never thought that he was, but I think that the people who think he is running the show likely just have the causality reversed. So here's what I said. It seems many agree that Agent Kobach didn't impress Nichole hard enough, and some have suggested it might be because Nicole's dad, Dwayne Kessinger, was present. Though Dwayne did interrupt occasionally, I believe it's actually the other way around. Kobach wasn't lenient because Dwayne was there. Rather, Dwayne was there because Kobach was lenient.
Now, I think this is an important point here. He says, wait, let's just listen to that again, because everybody is like, oh my God, you know, her dad was there and he ran the show and how the heck did this happen? But it's the fact that her dad is there just really an indicator of Kobach's weak constitution and inability to be a strong investigator and good interviewer. I think this is a pretty brilliant point here. Simple yet brilliant.
Likely just have the causality reversed for interrogation skills. And then I went over the errors he made. All right, and I'll just address this here as well before we move on. I saw lots of comments, people saying, was Dwayne Kessinger, Nicole's dad, running the show? I thought about that. I never thought that he was, but I think that the people who think he is running the show likely just have the causality reversed. So here's what I said. It seems many agree that Agent Kobach didn't impress Nichole hard enough, and some have suggested it might be because Nicole's dad, Dwayne Kessinger, was present. Though Dwayne did interrupt occasionally, I believe it's actually the other way around. Kobach wasn't lenient because Dwayne was there. Rather, Dwayne was there because Kobach was lenient. In other words, Kobach is likely a pushover, and that's why Dwayne is there.
I think that that's a pretty good point. Now, I want to address this really quick about Deception Detective. So, hey, Lulu Loveberry, how are you doing? And I love your name. So glad that you're here. Lulu Loveberry says, why would Deception Detective monetize a video for a case he cannot be bothered to research? I've never heard that researching a case makes statement analysis impossible. Okay, I didn't read the last part of your statement there, your comment there, but you know, he expressly says that he doesn't do the research because he wants to be able to do a pure statement analysis. Now, I think that this is a good point, and I believe this to be absolutely true. Like, if you're going to do statement analysis in the purest form and you are going to analyze the veracity of what someone is saying or be able to detect the deception in what somebody is saying, it is best done by relying solely upon their statement at the time. Once you do a bunch of background research, you're going to get into your mind, you know, these circumstances that you know in your head you believe are aggravating or mitigating, or sometimes you don't even have the circumstances right. It's just that you heard someone said this about, you know, the case, and we all start to get the facts and the rumors and the BS kind of, you know, all mixed up in our heads. So I think that, you know, I personally stand behind his choice to approach statement analysis in that manner, because, you know, if, you know, he's doing it in the purest way, I believe that is the correct way to do it. But thank you for your comment, and you can disagree with me, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there.
If Kobach wasn't a pushover, Dwayne probably wouldn't be there in the first place. He would have found some way to dissuade Dwayne from sitting in on the interview. That's my thoughts so far. Let me know in the comments if you agree. And obviously, my thoughts are able to develop as we continue analyzing. Nothing's set in stone.
To be honest with you, like, I so much.
You like to talk, I can tell a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
400 when she was young. She'd crank out about 400 words a minute, gusts up to 600. A little thinking, yeah, man.
You're a talker, so I'm letting you talk.
I need to use the restroom.
Let me show you where it's at.
Can you
So,
give me some water while you're out there with
Sure.
them, please? Thank you.
Another bottle.
Yeah, at least one.
Let's move to.
So let's see. Cheryl asks, if she's a skilled manipulator, why do the majority of us not believe her? That's because we are a bunch of skilled crime sleuths, don't you think?
Sunday. Well, let me reverse something.
All right, and just 2 quick notes here. If you are interviewing someone, especially someone who's cooperating like Nichol here, you should never shame them for talking. The entire point of getting Nichol there is to have her talk. And what does Kobach do? He makes little underhanded remarks about how much she talks. The last thing I would want to do is make her conscious about talking. I don't want her to be self-conscious about it. I want her to speak freely. If anything, I'd say, you know, how about you tell me more? You know, open up a little bit with me. Right, let's just get crazy. Let's just talk. He's doing the exact opposite of what he should be doing. Also, I'll just quickly note this. In part 1, when they brought up the phone records, Nichol started doing something that manipulators often do, which is playing the victim and trying to build some sympathy and distract. And she said, well, I'm really hungry, right? Right before the phone stuff came up, which indicated to me that she was sensitive about the phone records. And if you haven't seen my analysis of that, the video is titled How to Interrogate a Suspect. And she said things along the lines of, I'm really hungry. You know, I just woke up. I've got a headache, even though this was an hour into the interview. And she only started doing that right when the phone was mentioned. And I think what they did was they went out and they got her this bag of chips. It's been about half an hour. She hasn't touched that bag of chips. Now, maybe she forgot she was hungry. Maybe she lost her appetite. Or this could just be a little bit more confirmation that what she was doing there when she was talking about being hungry and having a headache was, as I suspected, a manipulation tactic. A little way to build some sympathy or to delay the interview so she could think about how she was going to address the topic of searching her phone. So I'll just point that out here, since the last time they all left the room was to get chips. Those chips are still there, untouched.
Your conversation with the children, or about the children, was there ever talk about medical concerns with either of the children?
Well, I know Cece is allergic to not peanuts, like pine nuts. Pine nuts.
So she has a nut allergy.
Yes.
Did they take meds?
Yeah, I know that she had like an EpiPen, but as far as I know, she didn't have any meds, but I never asked. Like, I was just told, like, she has a pretty severe allergy. And
Enough to carry an EpiPen, that's pretty severe.
yeah, while we're on this, so when he was in North Carolina, this is all like hearsay now, because it's like, this is not a conversation. Like, he's telling me this stuff, but who knows exactly what happened. But he went out there to go see his family and her family. And while he was in town, before he went out to North Carolina, I guess his mother had accidentally, like, not exposed her to something with nuts, but had, like, given a product, I think it was like ice cream, to a different kid that could have traces of nuts or something. I don't know. But it was like, his daughter was fine, but she was like in the range of contamination. And I think his wife was very upset about that. And when he got to North Carolina, he told me that he was supposed to spend like half time with them, half the time with her family, and that was supposed to be what it was. I don't know. But he said that he went to go see his family and they weren't answering the phone for like a day or two before he went out there. And then when he got there was a note on the door that said, son, if you step by, we're at the beach. And they ignored him for like most of the time that he was out there. And
His own family?
yes, his mom, his dad, and his sister.
What's the significance? Do you know why?
Yeah, he said, and again, I don't know what is true with this man anymore and what's not, but he told me that like leading up to it, I was like, well, why are your folks like ignoring you? And I was like really concerned about this. Like every single day he would talk to me when he was out there, and I was like, you talked to your family today? You talked to your family today?
I'm just going to note here how she referred to Chris as this man. Remember, as I pointed out in part 3, this indicates closeness, that indicates distance. So even here where she knows that he killed his whole family, or I think she knows at least that he killed Shanann. Actually, I think she knows at this point he killed his entire family. She still calls him this man, right? So she still reveals to us through her words that she feels some sort of connection to Chris still, despite the gruesome stuff he's done. Which is interesting. Does it mean that she is happy he did it, or she helped him plan it, or she still feels close to him because she knew it was coming and she expected it? At this point, I don't think so, but it is possible. Like I said in part 1, because she deleted all of her text messages with him, and because we've seen signs that she's deceptive about how they communicated, about what she knew about Shanann, about what they talked about, the lazy dog, she has forfeited her right to the benefit of the doubt with me, at least.
Today, did you talk to your dad? What happened? Did you talk to him? No, I didn't. Or yeah, I talked to my mom. Well, what'd she say? Are you going to hang out with him? Like, I wanted him to see his people because it's important. Family is an important thing. You know, it just needs to function properly. And
Sure.
And so I was like, well, and he was like, well, they're ignoring me. And I was like, what do you think happened? And he's like, I'm not really sure, but I think something was said between my wife and them during that incident. And he's like, because every time that happened before he got there, yes. And he's like, because every time that I try to I talk about possibly going over there to see if they're home, she gets upset about it. And I was like, okay. And he told me that his mom and his wife did not get along at all. He said that his mom didn't even show up to his wedding because she's like really did not care for Shanann. Okay. So again, I don't know.
All right. So this is another point that was raised in part 3. And I think it's insightful into Nicole's thinking, into how she manipulates people, into how she strategizes and plants the seeds she needs to plant in order to manipulate people and get them to do things. In my last video, in part 3 of this series, How to Fool the Police, Nicole made a comment along the lines of, I've never bashed Shanann as a mom. And lots of commenters and people in the live chat said, you know, she's lying. You know, she definitely bashed Shanann as a mother. And they pointed to all the other places where Nichol has bashed Shanann. And we even see here, she's bashing Shanann again, right? So Chris's mom didn't like her. She didn't go to the wedding because Shanann's such an unlikable person. However, I personally have a counterintuitive thought about that. And here's my thought I posted in the DD forum. Many commenters were skeptical when Nichol claimed she had never bashed Shanann's parenting. However, I believe she was genuine, despite her past critical remarks about
This is a really great point here, guys. Listen up carefully.
Shanann's job, spending habits, attitude, likability. Nichol was open about all those other criticisms, so why lie about this one? Nichol was not interested in being a stepmother. So maintaining a positive view of Shanann as a mother makes sense. It would ensure that Chris felt comfortable leaving his daughters with Shanann especially when they began living together. In other words, Nichol probably planned which aspects of Shanann she was going to criticize and which she was going to try to build up in Chris's head in order to make her future plans as close to ideal for her as possible. She didn't want to bash Shanann as a mother because she wanted Shanann to continue mothering the children.
Ah, doesn't this make great sense? I think he is so super spot on with this, and I never would have thought of it in these terms. I don't think I would have. I certainly haven't until this point. And I think he is so spot on with this. After I heard him saying this, I went back and I thought about her attitude towards all of these different things in Chris Watts' life, and I think he is so spot on. I'm just going to go back just like 30 seconds. I really want you guys to listen carefully to this and let me know what you think.
Ensure that Chris felt comfortable leaving his daughters with Shanann. She was genuine, despite her past critical.
So he's talking about she was genuine in her complimenting Shanann on her mom and skills, despite her past criticisms, you know, fast and furious about Shanann for this reason. All self-serving, of course, because we are talking about Nichol Kessinger, the official Skanky Empanada. Empanada.
Makes sense. It would ensure that Chris felt comfortable leaving his daughters with Shanann, especially when they began living together. In other words, Nichol probably planned which aspects of Shanann she was going to criticize and which she was going to try to build up in Chris's head in order to make her future plans as close to ideal for her as possible. She didn't want to bash Shanann as a mother because she wanted Shanann to continue mothering the children. That way she and Chris could go live on their own without her having to be a stepmother to the children. In other words, it looks like she is a very good forward-thinking manipulator. Now, is she manipulative enough to plan a murder or to coerce a man into murdering his entire family and to be with her? That's yet to be determined. But this is a good insight into how forward-thinking she is. She was able to turn him against Shanann, or at least play up the things he didn't like about Shanann, while still deliberately not bashing certain aspects of her that favor what she wants in the end. So I hope that makes sense. Also, if you disagree with me or agree with me and have other examples of her carving out exceptions for when she bashed Shanann that would contribute to the conversation, please do drop them here in the DD forum.
So what do you guys think about that? I'm going to go down to the current time comments. I just want to see if anybody has anything to say about that, because I'm sorry if I didn't catch your comments, if I didn't highlight them or anything. There's so many great comments here, but I just can't keep up with them. Thank you guys. You have so many great ideas and so many awesome things to say. Sub Rosa says, let's just comment. It's amazing that people think that Kobach is dumb. I think he has an agenda. Clear NK at all costs. He was so wooed by NK. Ah, so you're kind of combining two different ideas in there, Sub Rosa. Very interesting. Let's see. He definitely comes off as more stupid than malicious with Kobach, but the overall investigation was totally corrupt. Let's see. Oh my gosh, so many. Yeah, his dad definitely should not have been in the room, Sherry. Definitely not. Oh my gosh, I'm missing so many comments. I'm gonna go back and read them, but NK was claiming that she was under psychological distress as a victim and she wanted him there in regards to Dwayne Kessinger, her father, being present at the interview. And yes, Dwayne is an engineer. I just did a video about that. He may or not be part of the fraternities or secret sororities. Yeah, I don't know. My grandfather's a 33rd degree Mason, and I've told this story a little bit before. And I was the only grandchild. I did a lot of things with my grandparents when I was young, including going to a lot of the Mason events. They would go away for like weekends and retreats and stuff. I don't know why they brought me. I was definitely the only kid there, but they were good people doing good things. I mean, there's things that I didn't see, of course, but I don't think poorly of them. I think they do have a lot of influence. I think that's for sure. But, you know, yes, empanada, 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 empanada. Let's see. Getting down to current times here. Good point, Aaron. Color Me Aaron says, NK was also texting Chris Watts questions that only he would know the answers to. indicating that she was thinking the LE, law enforcement, might have had his phone by then, pretending to be him. Yes, that was highlighted in a video I just uploaded the other day that was all about his Chris Watts prison interview as it pertains to him talking about Nichol Kessinger. Really good point there too, Aaron. Yeah. And I give you your wrench back, Aaron. She asks for 2 waters and says nothing when dad comes back. Well, we know that she's a rude bitch, if nothing less. Yeah. Welcome to everybody who's coming in. I'm so glad you guys are here. Kelly, you analyzed this to a T. Do you remember, Ara said? Which part exactly was that, Ara? Because I would definitely like for us to comment on it. I think I might know what you're talking about, but let's see. Let's see what Ara's saying here, because she's had a couple comments. I think it was something we were talking about. Where do they go? Let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to find some comments here in particular. I don't know where they went. Kelly, I have a good thought for you. If you do panel, awesome. Yeah, I would love for you to come up for sure. Kelly, you analyzed this to a T. Remember which part, sweetie? Because I would like to speak about it. Hey, Double R, how you doing? Double R's in the house. Watts, the obsession on, pants off. That's what he says. As if NK didn't know both menus. The fact that she went to the different Lazy Dog because they had a different menu, I'm going to tell you this right now, guys, is a lie. Molson Mann, who is a moderator and friend of this channel, and myself both investigated this fact way, way long ago. Like when this case was really new. I think maybe in the very beginning of me having a YouTube channel. Actually, I think it was before that. So Nichol Kessinger says that they went to one Lazy Dog, then they went to another because she looked at the menu and she didn't like it. There was too many macros or something, or not enough macros. And so they went to another one. However, at the time, Lazy Dog was just franchising out, and they kept the same menus among the locations except for changing certain like special events, like say for happy hour, you could like add a tapas or, you know, have a drink special or something to attract a crowd at those certain niche times, like happy hour or late night. But other than that, they had the exact same menu. That's a really important point. And I can tell you that is for absolute sure. I talked to the people at the Lazy Dog. So did Molson Mann. We compared notes before we even knew each other. We each did this, and we had the exact same results. I don't care what anyone says. All right, I'm just going to keep playing this because I'm getting lost in comments. Such great comments. I'm going to try to star some here.
Is to have her talk. And what does Kobach do? He makes little underhanded remarks about how much she talks. The last thing I would want to do is make her conscious about talking. I don't want her to be self-conscious about it. I want her to speak freely. If anything, I'd say, you know, how about you tell me more? You know, open up a little bit with me. All right, let's just get crazy. Let's just talk. He's doing the exact opposite of what he should be doing. Did Nichol Kessinger get away with murder or at least being an accessory? Or was she just another of Chris Watts' victims? I'm Deception Detective. I'm an attorney trained in statement analysis, and this channel exists to expose lies and manipulation.
Oh, wait.
In today's video, we'll analyze Nichol Kessinger's
Oh my God, I went back to the beginning. How did I do that? Holy cow. I'll find where
It's been about half an hour. She hasn't touched that bag of chips.
Shit, where were we?
And what does Kobach do? He makes little underhanded remarks about.
All right, let me find where we are.
Those chips are still.
Needs to function properly, and
Sure.
And so I was like, well, and he was like, well, they're ignoring me. And I was like, what do you think happened? And he's like, I'm not really sure. But
Okay.
Definitely bashed Shanann as a mother.
Okay.
And they pointed to all the other places where Nichol has bashed Shanann. And we even see here, she's bashing Shanann again, right? So Chris's mom didn't like her. She didn't go to the wedding because Shanann's such an unlikable person. However, I personally have a counterintuitive thought about that. And here's my thought I posted in the DD forum.
I'm going to let him say it again because it's such a good
Many
point.
commenters were skeptical when Nichol claimed she had never bashed Shanann's parenting. However, I believe she was genuine, despite her past critical remarks about Shanann's job, spending habits, attitude, likability. Nichol was open about all those other criticisms. So why lie about this one? Nichol was not interested in being a stepmother. So maintaining a positive view of Shanann as a mother makes sense. It would ensure that Chris felt comfortable leaving his daughters with Shanann, especially when they began living together. In other words, Nichol probably planned which aspects of Shanann she was going to criticize.
This is brilliant.
And which she was going to try to build up in Chris's head in order to make her future plans as close to ideal for her as possible. She didn't want to bash Shanann as a mother because she wanted Shanann to continue mothering the children. That way she and Chris could go live on their own without her having to be a stepmother to the children. In other words, it looks like she is a very good forward-thinking manipulator. Now, is she manipulative enough to plan a murder or to coerce a man into murdering his entire family and to be with her? That's yet to be determined. But this is a good insight into how forward-thinking she is. She was able to turn him against Shanann, or at least play up the things he didn't like about Shanann, while still deliberately not bashing certain aspects of her that favor what she wants in the end. So I hope that makes sense. Also, if you disagree with me or agree with me and have other examples of her carving out exceptions for when she bashed Shanann that would contribute to the conversation, please do drop them here in the DD forum. I make a topic in the forum for each new podcast that's released, specifically so we can speak freely without any restrictions over there. All right, let's keep listening.
I just want to read one comment here. Whoops. So, and what do you guys think about this? Food for thought. I think this sometimes. Lulu Loveberry says NK wanted Shanann dead, not being another. NK was more obsessed with Shanann than she was with Chris Watts. Yeah, I think it's very possible that is true. I don't know. What do you guys think?
True and what's not, but I just know that there was like some tension there. Mm-hmm. And again, like that part is like, I feel like it's almost third party. So that's why it's like I didn't even.
Well, but it came from him to you. So it's not. It is something that is, whether it's important or not, we can validate that. I'm sure we will be having some conversations with family. What does it mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I just know.
So maybe she, I don't know.
Well, and then he ended up seeing them on the last full day that he was there, and they told him supposedly that she had gotten really upset and then screamed and yelled in front of Chris's sister's kids that are very young, and to his mom and to his dad, and said you're never going to see Chris again. You're never going to see.
Telling the story to please out Shanann as much of a monster as she can, while remaining calm, cool, and collected, because this is one of her many skilled, honed, and practiced manipulation techniques, or just being an a-hole through life techniques, really.
See the babies and just threaten them, and then walked off. And I guess that was the incident that happened prior to him coming out there, and then she didn't tell him about it. Mm-hmm. She just let it go, and then he just spent all week trying to figure out why his family was not trying to be involved.
Gotcha.
So again, I'm not sure. That was it just feels really third party, so it's hard for me to talk about because I don't know how much validation.
So beyond the nut allergy for Cece, did you know of any other? Did she take meds that you know of other than carrying an EpiPen?
His kids or his wife?
No, his children.
No.
And now, well, if you know anything about his wife's medical conditions, if she had any.
No, I've read in the newspaper, they keep saying, oh, she had medical conditions. And I'm like, is that a misprint? Are they talking about Cece? Or is that just something else I don't know?
So you don't know anything about Shanann having any kind of medical problems?
No.
Okay. Covered Saturday. So there's a phone call Saturday night, actually, from, it can't be Saturday, it had to be Sunday.
At this point, you should be able to catch the errors Kobach makes with his questions. All right, so I've cataloged them. I've pointed them out individually. You should be able to pick up on them now, right? So the whole point of these videos is to help expose lies and manipulation, but also fortify my audience, you guys, to be able to catch it yourselves and to avoid mistakes in attaining the truth yourselves, which is why these interview technique videos are also so useful. So when you ask a question, a leading question in the negative, it is easy for someone who's telling the truth to reply to the negative, and just as easy for someone who's lying to parrot back the no or the never in your question itself. In other words, it makes it hard when you review the responses to determine if someone was telling the truth or if they were lying. And in fact, I have a card in the deck all about interviewing non-cooperative subjects. With
I
four.
want to say happy hour is not illegal in Colorado because I went there snowboarding I haven't gone in a few years. Well, at least as far as a few years ago, because I enjoyed many a happy hours labeled as happy hour. Because I'm reading somebody who's saying happy hour is illegal in certain states. I didn't even know that.
Techniques to make it harder for a liar to lie to you. So if you want me to read that card out, please let me know and I'll read it in the next part of this series. Just comment uncooperative subjects below.
I wrote that down quickly. Sunday night. Is there anything else you think? Let me just back up from the Saturday where you guys had a meal at the Lazy Dog to prior for the 6 weeks that you guys were serious. And although your dad's here and I think you're probably pretty comfortable, your relationship with Chris can you describe your relationship?
I mean, when he was with me, I considered it.
So this is reason enough not to have the dad in the room.
Yes, I totally agree with this.
And could even be explained to the father. You know, hey, Dwayne, I know you have every right to be in the room and Nicole's cooperating with us. However, because of the nature of her relationship with Chris, Nichol might feel uncomfortable discussing the intimate details of her relationship with Chris in front of you because you're her dad. So if you don't mind, could you, just please wait outside the room while we conduct the first part of this interview, and then we can call you in once we're past that. Sounds reasonable enough. Maybe Dwayne would accept it, maybe not. I don't know the history of what happened outside of this video. So like I've said before, if they were already acting very skittish and showed signs that they were ready to lawyer up, then I understand the fact that Kobach wouldn't push too hard against anything, because if he pushes them a little bit too hard, they might just scatter and lawyer up, and then he loses the ability to interview them easily, to have them cooperating with him. However, he does have them cooperating, and so far he hasn't seemed to capitalize on that at all. The questions he asks do nothing to tell us what Nichol actually knew. Even with something as simple as, did you know Shanann was pregnant last week or before this happened? Did you know Shanann was pregnant? He couldn't even ask her a question like that, right? The way he asked it was, earlier you told me you didn't know Shanann was pregnant, right? She can say yes, she can say no to that. All it confirms to us is that she said something to him out in the hallway earlier. She could have been lying, she could have been telling the truth. Then the other questions he asked were, did Chris ever tell you Shanann was pregnant? She says no. Or did Chris ever indicate Shanann was pregnant? And she said no. I believe it. Of course, it's very likely Chris would not have told his mistress that his wife was pregnant. But what he failed to ask was, did you know Shanann was pregnant? Through research of your own, through browsing Facebook, through seeing something at his house when you visited. I've seen some comments where people said that there was a sonogram taped up to the fridge in the kitchen that she probably saw. So while he has them cooperating, he does not seem to be capitalizing on it at all.
It to be fairly healthy was open communication, and it was what I thought was honest, and it was very calm. It was respectful. We got along really well. He gave me my space when I needed it. I gave him his, and anytime he wanted to take care of it, anytime that his kids could be in his life for hours or days or whenever they were home, I made sure that I wasn't a presence in his life so that he could be the best dad that he needed to be.
All right, so this is a theme we see time and time again. Ever since the first time I saw it, I've got all my chips on that I've got this correct. What she would do is force Chris into an ultimatum.
Yes.
You're either with your kids
Uh-huh.
or you're with me. Every time she mentions the kids, sometimes she butters it up and says, well, I told him, like she did here, when he's with his children, I'm not going to.
Guys, this point he's making here is so freaking money. Like what he's saying here, the spirit of it, I know I understood, and I think a lot of you understood to be true, but the way he sums it up here, it makes logical sense of it and explains to us how we know what we already kind of knew to be true is just freaking amazing. I'm just going to go back like 30 seconds, listen super carefully. I think this is freaking brilliant.
Kids could be in like his life. It to be fairly healthy was open communication, and it was what I thought was honest, and it was very calm. It was respectful. We got along really well. He gave me my space when I needed it. I gave him his.
Ugh.
And anytime like he wanted to take care of it, like anytime that his kids could be in like his life for hours or days or whatever, whenever they were home, I made sure that I wasn't a presence in his life so that he could be the best dad that he needed to be.
Ugh.
All right, so this is a theme we see time and time again. Ever since the first time I saw it, I've got all my chips on that I've got this correct.
So do I.
What she would do is force Chris into an ultimatum. You're either with your kids or you're with me. Every time she mentions the kids, sometimes she butters it up and says, well, I told him, like she did here, when he's with his children, I'm not going to be there so that he can be a great father and give them all the attention they deserve. But sometimes she lets it leak, like we saw in part 3, the tone she actually used when she gave Chris these ultimatums, where she said things like, well, nope, we're not hanging out because you're with your kids. So go hang out with your kids.
This is so money. Listen carefully.
That's how I think she actually said this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a common tactic of manipulators. They can recite to you exactly what they said to someone. We've seen Jada Pinkett Smith do it. We've seen Amber Heard do it. We've seen Meghan Markle do it on the channel. They can tell you word for word what they actually said to someone, but they leave out the context of the tone in which they said it. Saying something like, I personally think you should spend time with your kids. Sounds reasonable enough. That's basically how Nichol presented it here. But add the tone, the belittling tone that manipulators use, and it completely changes. I believe, get your hands off me. I believe you should go spend time with your kids. Bye-bye. Hang up the phone or slam the door in his face. That seems to be how this actually happened in reality.
Absolutely.
Also, this is one of the reasons I believe Nichol when she says she didn't bash Shanann as a mother. She seems to have zero interest in the children. And it makes sense that she would carve out that one thing, right? She said herself, I didn't bash her as a mother. What does that imply? Well, she bashed Shanann about plenty, but she specifically remembers not bashing Shanann as a mother, probably because she wanted Shanann to have full or the majority of the custody over the children once Chris left. So he and Nichol could have as much alone time together as they needed.
Amen.
Which, by logical extension, if I'm right about all, expect Chris to kill his wife and children.
And point. I mean, I thought what we had, it was very comfortable for me. I enjoyed it. I think he did very much as well.
You guys, 6 to 8 weeks, 2 months, whatever it was, you guys have an intimate relationship during that time.
Yes.
Okay. So you're pretty serious. Did he ever tell you that he loved you?
Yes, he did.
Did you ever tell him the same?
A couple times.
Okay. Notwithstanding that today, because those thoughts may have changed for you, but on, let's go Sunday into Monday or Monday, did you still love him on those days?
I think it was something where it was like I said it a few times and I meant it, But he definitely felt the urge to say it to me a lot more than I did to him, because it was just all very new to me. And I was like, take your time with this. Like, you don't need to like rush that, you know? Like, I remember when he was in North Carolina and he was like trying to patch things up with his wife, and he told me he loved me, and I was like, don't say that to me. Like, please go try to fit. And I mean, and that might even be in the text too, where it's like, don't say those words to me and then go try to make.
Now, he makes such a good point here, because she knows that she needs to account for this, because she now knows, she just learned during this interview, that they have all of her text messages for the past 7 days, and they're going to be reading them. So she has to, account for her words, but present the story in a far different tone than what was reality. And the deception detective, I think, explains this brilliantly.
Once again, this looks like her reciting her exact words, but leaving out the tone. I believe if she said, you're trying to patch things up with your wife and you're telling me you love me, don't tell me you love me.
Yep.
Ew.
That's right.
Right? Something along those lines. And let me know if you like my Nichol Kessinger impression.
You got a little work to do, honey, but it's all right.
To make peace with your wife and lay in bed with another woman. Like, just don't do that. And I was like, it's not that I don't appreciate what you're saying to me. It's like, it just didn't sit right for me, So I just feel like
almost like an insecurity where he had to say that to you. Or?
I don't know. I think he like, looking back at all this now, I don't think he was trying to fix things with her. So saying I love you to me seemed like probably something that he genuinely meant. Like, I love this woman, and
she can't even swallow her pride here to get off the lie. I freaking love it.
And regardless of where he was going to end up that night, but to me, in the way that I was perceiving things, he had told me that he was trying to fix things with her. So it's just like, this is an inappropriate time. And I wasn't mad at him. And I'm pretty sure that's in the text too, where it was very like calm, but it's just like, it's almost disrespectful, where it's like, please don't. I'm like, if we get to that point where it is you and me, like, yes, you can say that, but not then. Like, that's.
So what she's essentially doing here is
once again, she reveals
why they're going to find out through the text messages, or maybe they already did, why she's behaving like a crazy ass bitch.
True nature of the relationship when she says that she controlled the situation. So she says, for example, he was with his kids, so I told him he couldn't call me. He needed to take time with his kids, which implies that he wanted to call her. He wanted to have it both ways. He wanted to be with his kids and be able to call Nichol, but she set up the ultimatum. If you're with your kids, you can't call me.
That's right.
In other words, it wasn't mutual, where she's saying, well, we decided when he's with his kids, he shouldn't call me. And here again, I told him he couldn't say he loves me. So it wasn't mutual. Hey, when I'm with my wife, I'm trying to patch things up. It might be awkward, but I can't say I love you because it would be a lie, because I'm not totally decided on you. Or if she says, just don't lie to me. Let's just see if you can save your marriage, and then we can tell each other we love each other if we're 100% certain. She's saying she told him he couldn't. So he was trying to say he loves her, and she said, no. If you're trying to work on your relationship with your wife, and you're over on a vacation with her, and I'm sitting here alone, don't tell me you love me.
Right? Yes. Absolutely.
So you thought he was very genuine when he said that.
I did. I mean, and he wrote it. It's in all those cards I gave you. Not in all of them, but like the later ones.
And
thank you.
When you said it to him, you said you meant it when you said it.
Yes, I just didn't say as frequently as he said it. Like, sometimes he would say it, and I was just like.
So Nichol said something interesting here. She talked about cards where Chris said he loves her. That's another form of communication.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, he said it in all the cards I gave you. What about cards she didn't give them? Also, why were they writing things in physical cards? Like, could these just be benign love notes between each other with photos, and she only turned over some of them because the ones are explicit? Of course. But could it be that they really were saying some very nasty things about his family, his wife, his children, joking maybe about doing things to them, about getting rid of them? and they were paranoid enough not to put it into a phone. So they preferred to put it into writing.
Yeah.
Or to get reassurances from each other, right? We're going to put this into writing so that we each have blackmail if we ever turn on each other. It's possible.
Maybe.
All these things are still on the table. However, the way I'm betting, if I'm stacking up my chips, and remember, the analysis we do here, the deception detection we do here, is all about being right more often than you are wrong. So if someone changes their tenses or says a word that indicates deception, does it mean 100% of the time that they're lying? Of course not. But if you notice those indicators, you can start to stack your chips, like you're a poker player, stacking your chips, ready to go all in. And the idea of everything we do here, the deception detection techniques, including statement analysis, critical thinking, Bayesian statistical approach, are the razors, like I just showed you Hanlon's razor, or Occam's razor. We use them all so that when we do go all in on something, we're right more often than we are wrong. That's the whole thing. That's the whole point, is to not be tricked. So far, all my chips are stacked on Nichol being very manipulative, very unlikable, maybe joking with Chris about killing his family and doing terrible things to them. Maybe even jokingly planning something. But I don't think that she helped him literally plan and orchestrate the murder of his family, nor do I think she helped participate in it, nor do I think she helped him physically cover it up. But the fact that she deleted all of her messages with him might suggest that she could be an accessory after the fact. And those messages are gone, right? As far as I know, no one's ever seen those text messages, nor has her phone ever been searched, as far as I'm aware, for any other apps they might have used to communicate, which I think she's done a lot of work, especially in part 1 of my series, How to Interrogate a Subject. She's done a lot of linguistic work to get the detectives not to search for other forms of communication. If they were to reopen up an investigation into her tomorrow, I would say the first thing they should do is search for any apps she deleted off that phone within the 2 days before she came in for this interview.
Absolutely.
I'd be curious if she deleted something like Telegram or Signal or Skype or Instagram or LinkedIn or any other tool they could have used to communicate.
For me, it was still like very, very new. So I kind of like took him only step. I was just like, this is a really important moment.
So you got, I mean, in the short period of time that you guys were together, he became very attached to you.
Yes. Very, very
he's
attached.
sending cards,
flowers.
He's telling you he loves you. He sends you flowers. Does he buy you any other gifts?
Nope. I wouldn't have wanted them anyways. Flowers is enough. I don't need expensive stuff.
Okay. But he becomes very attached to you.
Yes.
You guys are talking multiple times a day, at least. You're seeing each other on a regular basis.
Yep.
So it's a very, and his wife is not around, nor are his children. So there's a lot of time for you guys to build your relationship in this first four weeks or so. Is that fair?
Yeah, and even when she was back, I mean, it was still like we were still spending time together. He was still spending time with his children, and I had my own life. Like, I mean, there was 1 week where I just like went out of town with my friends for my birthday. I wasn't even around the whole like last few days of June up until the 3rd of July. I was like gone, and then there was another, like last weekend, I had a friend impromptu come in town from out of state, and I hosted her for a few days. And it's like I still did my own thing all the time. Like whether he was there or not, like if my friends were like, hey, we want to make plans, I would tell them like, we're not hanging out today because I want to go see my mom or my dad.
Did your friends know about him?
Nope.
Why?
Because it's like he's with 2 women right now. They don't need to know about
So if you had a boyfriend of 4 to 8 weeks on a regular, I don't know if you were married prior or if you had a boyfriend before, but if you had a steady boyfriend, you would have let people know, I think you told me before we got started that you just told your dad about Chris.
No, I wouldn't have
recently.
told them. I wouldn't have told
Okay.
people. It's too early. I mean, people.
So you don't tell your friends, hey, I got
No,
a
because
boyfriend.
people come and go. I mean,
Okay.
dating scene these days is like, it sucks. I mean, so no, I wouldn't. I mean, it would have to be something. Even with Sean, I think I was with Sean for probably like 6 or 7 months before I brought him home to my family. I mean, I really, same with, that was the guy I was in a previous relationship with. But I mean,
this one, you were a little bit more, you said he's with 2 women. Was that one of your considerations for not telling anybody about him?
Yes. Well, I mean, it was like, okay, like this.
As part of this series, I think we should analyze Chris's confession to see if,
Yes,
if we
Deception Detective, please do. Do we all want Deception Detective to analyze Chris's confession? Because he will be watching this. Please say yes in the chat if you want to see that, because I know I do.
believe it. So he apparently said he did everything on his own, that Nichol wasn't involved. Is that credible? Is he covering for her? The other thing is, if this guy Sean has ever done any interviews, I'd be curious to know what he says about what it's like to actually be in a relationship with Nichol. If she's as manipulative and controlling
Poor guy.
as she seems to be in this interview. Maybe one of the YouTubers who's really deep into this case, like Zawoki or Watts the Obsession, who react to my Nichol Kessinger videos, can let me know if that video even exists.
It doesn't, my
if
friend,
Sean
I'm so
has
sorry.
done any interviews.
Not that we
So
know
we're
of.
coming up on an hour now, so I'll wrap up here. If you want me to continue looking into this case, let's get this video to 50,000 views.
We're
On your
almost
screen
there.
right now is a video I recommend you watch next, as well as my playlist about Nichol Kessinger if you want to dive deeper. Until next time, stay tuned.
All right, so thank you so much, Deception Detective. And we've got a ton of yeses in the chat right here. Yes, of course. We want you to do statement analysis of Chris Watts' confession. I've been waiting for that. So we hope you're going to do it. I know right now his video is at 46,000. When he gets to 50,000, I'll make a new video. And I just think he's great. As I told you during the course of this video, I don't agree with everything that he says. But I agree with a heck of a lot of it. But when I don't agree with them, there's very specific reasons why I do not. And I would love to be able to have a discussion with him about that sometime. But I know that he likes to work on his own. So there is no chance of collaboration. But I guess what I want to know from you, Deception Detective, is, you know, what we're talking about is, you know, the theory that you put out, the razor theory that you put out, I don't remember what it's called, where you say, you know, when stupidity can account for something, you should not, you know, attribute it to malice. But what about when it's over an extended period of time, such as with these interviews with Kevin Kobach interviewing Nichol Kessinger? There's a total of 8 hours of interviews between the two of them. Can we say it's stupidity every time over that span of time and not assume malice according to that you know, logical rule? I'm definitely very, very curious about that. So, oh my gosh. Now, here's something that I want to point out to you guys. When he's talking about, you know, I said, I think that he makes such a great point when he's talking about, you know, what she says about Shanann and, you know, somebody in the comments said, she said, Chris Watts, you know, he doesn't, what does he say? He doesn't talk bad about her momming skills. And the way that she talks about, you know, she's setting that up for her future. She does not want Shanann Watts to look like a bad mother because she doesn't want to be any part of being a stepmom. She wants to make sure that Shanann's still going to be taking care of those kids so she can have her man. And then the other excellent point I think she makes here is the way that she is telling, you know, the interviewer that their attitude about the kids. I want him to be able to see the kids whenever he could and blah, 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 and this and that. I just want to listen to a short little portion of that again. And then I want to show you the calendar that I made up to show you exactly how many nights Shanann was home during the duration of their reported relationship and how many times the children were home and what I think that means given what she has to say in the Deception Detective's analysis. Bear with me.
You think happened? And he's like, I'm not really sure, but I think something was said between my.
Let's see.
You know,
Okay, here we are.
a positive. to be with her without any restrictions over there. Let's keep listening.
I don't know what's true and what's not, but I just know that there was like some tension there.
Mhm.
And like, again, like that part is like, I feel like it's almost third party. So that's why it's
Sure.
like, I didn't even
Well, but
bring
it
up
came from
later.
him to you, so it's not. It is something that is, whether it's important or not, we can validate that. I'm sure we will be having some conversations with family. What does it mean? I don't know. But,
Yeah, I don't know either, but I just know.
so
like,
maybe she, I don't know.
well, and then he ended up seeing them on the last like full day that he was there, and they told him supposedly that she had gotten really upset and then screamed and yelled in front of Chris's sister's kids that are very young, and to his mom and to his dad, and said like, "You're never going to see Chris again. You're never going to see me. You're never going to see the babies," and just like threatened them, and then like walked off. And I guess that was the incident that happened prior to him coming out there, and then she didn't.
Covered Saturday. So there's a phone call Saturday night, actually, from, it can't be Saturday, it had to be Sunday.
Which is why these interview technique videos card out feel uncomfortable.
Let's see.
Anything, because if he pushes them a little bit too hard, they might just indicate Shanann was pregnant. And she said no.
And anytime like he wanted to take care of it, like anytime that his kids could be in like his life for hours or days or whatever, whenever they were home, I made sure that I wasn't in presence in his
Notice
life.
how she says, anytime his kids could be in his life for hours or days or whatever, hours or days. Notice how she said that?
So that he could be the best dad that he needed to be.
All right, so this is a theme we see time and time again. Ever since the first time I saw it, I've got all my chips on that I've got this correct.
Me too. Just
What she would do is force Chris into an ultimatum. You're either with your kids or you're with me. Every time she mentions the kids, sometimes she butters it up and says, well, I told him, like she did here, when he's with his children, I'm not going to be there so that he can be a great father and give them all the attention they deserve. But sometimes she lets it leak, like we saw in part 3, the tone she actually used when she gave Chris these ultimatums, where she said things like, well, nope, we're not hanging out because you're with your kids. So go hang out with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think she actually said this. And it's a common tactic of manipulators. They can recite to you exactly what they said to someone. We've seen Jada Pinkett Smith do it. We've seen Amber Heard do it. We've seen Meghan Markle do it on the channel. They can tell you word for word what they actually said to someone, but they leave out the context of the tone in which they said it. Saying something like, I personally think you should spend time with your kids. Sounds reasonable enough. That's basically how Nichol presented it here. But add the tone, the belittling tone that manipulators use, and it completely changes. I believe, get your hands off me. I believe you should go spend time with your kids. Bye-bye. Hang up the phone or slam the door in his face. That seems to be how this actually happened in reality. Also, this is one of the reasons I believe Nichol when she says she didn't bash Shanann as a mother. She seems to have zero interest in the children. And it makes sense that she would carve out that one thing, right? She said herself, I didn't bash her as a mother. What does that imply? Well, she bashed Shanann about plenty, but she specifically remembers not bashing Shanann as a mother, probably because she wanted Shanann to have full or the majority of the custody over the children once Chris left, so he and Nichol could have as much alone time together as they needed. Which, by logical extension, if I'm right about all that, probably means she didn't expect Chris to kill his wife and children.
And I mean, I thought what we had, it was very comfortable for me. I enjoyed it. I think he did very much as well.
You guys, 6 to 8 weeks, 2 months, whatever it was, you guys had an intimate relationship during that time.
Yes.
Okay. So you're pretty serious. Did he ever tell you that he loved you?
Yes, he did.
Did you ever tell him the same?
A couple times.
Okay. Notwithstanding that today, because those thoughts may have changed for you, but on, let's go Sunday into Monday or Monday, did you still love him on those days?
I think it was something where it was like I said it a few times and I meant it, but he definitely felt the urge to say it to me a lot more than I did to him, because it was just all very new to me. And I was like, take your time with this. Like, you don't need to like rush that, you know? Like, I remember when he was in North Carolina and he was like trying to patch things up with his wife and he told me he loved me. And I was like, don't say that to me. Like, please go try to fit. And I mean, and that might even be in the text too, where it's like, don't say those words to me and then go try to make.
Once again, this looks like her reciting her exact words, but leaving out the tone. I believe if she said, you're trying to patch things up with your wife and you're telling me you love me, don't tell me you love me. Ew. Right? Something along those lines. And let me know if you like my Nichol Kessinger impression.
Try to make peace with your wife and lay in bed with another woman. Like, just don't do that. And I was like, it's not that I don't appreciate what you're saying to me. It's like, it just didn't sit right for me, you know? So I just feel like.
Almost like an insecurity where he had to say that to you? Or?
I don't know. I think he like, looking back at all this now, I don't think he was trying.
Okay, so sorry I went a little longer with that. I was looking for a certain video here. So let me just bring into the presentation here, just a little calendar that I have made up. Oh, let's see. Oh, hold on. I need to save it here. Slight intermission break. Save as. We're going to call it NK Calendar. NK Cal. Make it easier. Okay. Okay. So I'll bring that up. Thank you guys so much for being here. I am so enjoying reading everything that you guys have to say in chat. Oops. All right. Okay. This is when I lost you guys before, so I got to be very careful. Okay. So, all right. Okay. All right. Do I still have you guys, please? Yes, I do. Yay. All right, let me take this down. Okay, so when we look at this calendar here, we can see, and sorry, it's like a little sloppy. I had to erase some things and move it around, but I just want you to get the basic idea. Forgive my art skills here. They are not top quality by any means, okay? So we see on, let me make this bigger so I can actually read it. On Tuesday, okay, so Shanann and Cece and Bella leave for North Carolina on June 26th. Well, wouldn't you know, it's that very same night when Chris Watts spends the night at Nichol Kessinger's house for the very first time. And that's when he shows up with 2 boxes of condoms, 1 new and 1 half used. And she goes and looks up the expiration date because she wants to know when it actually was that Chris Watts and Shanann Watts, when Chris Watts, was intimate with his wife, and she gets all psycho about that. And that's a whole different story of its own. But so they leave for North Carolina supposedly the night before Chris and NK first get together, if you know what I mean. And then they're gone that entire time. They return home on the 7th of August, Tuesday the 7th of August. And then Shanann leaves to go to Arizona for the weekend on Thursday the 9th, okay? So during the duration of the time that Kessinger and Chris Watts are together, according to their timeline, Shanann is only home for 1-2 nights. And oh, by the way, on the 9th, she leaves at like 4 in the morning. So it's, barely even 2 nights, okay? So during the course of their entire relationship, Nichol Kessinger only had to deal with Shanann being actually home in Colorado for like basically 1.5 nights. And then all of a sudden, all these crazy things happen and Shanann is gone, right? Now, how long were the children home during the course of Chris Watts and NK's relationship, according to them, according to their timeline? They get home on the 7th, so into the 8th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then their sweet little lives are gone forever. So during the course of what they claimed to be a 6-week relationship, Shanann was only home for a total of 2 nights, and the girls were home for only a total of 5 nights. So Nichol Kessinger getting all worked up about, I believe that the deception detective analysis is spot on here. And that when he's saying, she wasn't really like, oh, I want you to spend time with your kids. It was more like, you want to be with your kids? Go be with your kids. You want to be with your kids? You're not going to go with me. Nope, don't even. I don't want to hear it. Don't touch me. Get out of my sight. Go be with your kids. Right? I think that was her attitude towards him and towards him having a family who was actually home in Colorado that all of a sudden, transpired between them getting home from North Carolina and then, that very short 5 days when those children were actually home in Colorado in the same place with their father where Nichol Kessinger was before their lives had to end. So to me, that says something really substantial. I just saw that. It's funny. Let's see, just want to see some of your comments here. R says 100% Kelly. Well, thank you. Yes, let's see. So now, did you want to come up and say something, Ara? Oh, and who is Jim? Oh my gosh. All right, I'll tell you about who Jim is. I will put, I'm not going to be on for too much longer, but I will put the link in the stream, or in chat if anybody does want to come up. You're welcome to come up on panel. Anyone, open panel, anyone can come up. Here is the link to panel. Let's see. She had no respect for anyone. I agree with that. If you want to come up, come on up. It's now or never, baby. Leave Jim alone. Yeah. Let's see. Trying to think of where I can. Let's see. All right. If you're going to come up, come on up. I'm going to go. I have to go find something, a video right now. So if anybody wants to come up and talk so I can do that, that would be great. All right. Hold it. Let's see. Channel. Are you coming up? Link to panel. It's now or never, babies. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to bring up Ara and Kind Colorado. So everybody, welcome Ara and Kind Colorado. Your video is on. You're lovely. That's wonderful. I just always let people know because sometimes people are like, "Oh my God, I know my video is on. Why didn't you tell me?" So I'm going to bring you up. Okay, there you go. Hey, how's it going, guys? How are you doing?
Hi.
There. Nice to meet you, Kind Colorado, in person. Great to see you.
Oh, nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, and you too. Hey, Ara, how's it going, girl?
Thank you, Kelly. I don't want to keep you up.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. So what's on your mind? Let me start with Kind Colorado since it's her first time coming up here on panel. What are you thinking about Kind Colorado tonight?
I was just wanting to make the point that Deception Detective talked about how NK said, "Oh, I never bashed her momming skills," but actually what she said,
the one that said that. Okay.
She was talking about Chris never bashing her momming skills. It wasn't about herself. It was about Chris. And I think he missed the point.
Yeah,
I think
no, that's a good point. That's a really good point. You're the one that said that in chat. That's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
And you know what? Maybe it was because she was probably fishing for that. She was probably like fishing for, oh my God, I can't believe she this and this and this. And Chris wasn't agreeing with her, saying, oh yeah, she's this. He would probably always defend Shanann as a mom.
Yeah.
But it was being brought up because NK was probably trying to trash. You know what I mean? Like she was trying to complain and wanted to have someone agree with her, or like have him agree with her.
Right. But Chris was like, no, she's a good mom. Like, yes, we're having our affair and stuff, but like, I don't want to start doubting her as a mom because I'm already an insecure parasite of a chameleon as it is.
Right.
so
No
true.
strong feelings there,
I'm sure when they talked together that she completely bashed Shanann from sun up to sundown about everything. And for her to sit there in this interview and for them to believe that she talked that way, that she was sweet and she was so, this and that, it's overwhelming to keep watching it because I'm so addicted to this big lie that I can't keep my eyes off of watching it when you guys do videos. It's like so hard to believe that she got away with all of this.
Hence, what's the obsession, baby?
But I feel like females are way more. They're way more. We criticize. We're you know what I mean. We're overly. We just criticize her as deeply as we do because we're females too. And
so
boy,
here we go to the gender split. Okay, go ahead, go for it.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean it that way, but it's just like some guys will just
understand some of the stuff that she went through. Probably, I mean, my husband, he had a child, so I know some of the feelings you have when you're dealing with a boyfriend that has a child, and there's some jealousy and some of that going on, of course. But the fact that she went so far, and I'm of the belief that she had something to do with either the deaths of the girls or definitely of cleaning up the scene, getting things, done, putting the girls in the tank, whatever. I don't know. But I think she was in on the whole plan for sure and definitely had something to do with the cleanup at least, if not doing the girls in, unfortunately.
Yeah. To this day, I really truly cannot make up my mind as to how I feel about her precise involvement, insofar as, did she have something to do with the girls, or I truly just don't know. I like to listen to you guys. And I know I absolutely believe that she has committed crimes, that she has committed felonies, that like anybody else in the world would be charged for and would probably be prosecuted for and would be paying the price for. And she that has not happened to her, and there is a reason for that. But due to the exact nature of how she fit into the physicality of the crime, I just really truly I can't. As Deception Detective says, I can't put all my chips in one place.
Yeah, and sometimes these people are trying to do the best they can. Like they haven't dealt with a case like this before. Think about that. Like they're trying to deal with how to handle it all, and they don't have any physical evidence unless you can refresh my mind there. They don't have anything physically.
There's no physical evidence.
So what do they need? They need someone's testimony.
Right.
And I think NK was that testimony. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of circumstantial evidence. I mean, there is the fact that, there's like a little more than that, I guess, when it comes down to, obviously the murders happened, that Chris Watts' involvement. But yeah, they definitely did need her testimony, but at the expense of what, a
conviction. They just wanted to put someone away for this.
Well, yeah,
at the expense of what?
Keep his record.
Yeah.
Because I know that area, and I know he runs unopposed every time. This is his last year to run, because I think he is term limited this time.
Yes, he is. That's right. Yeah.
But the person that replaces him is going to be another one just like him, who's, you know, just not very much. There's not very much that's going to be done. Unfortunately, I think that it's a lost cause, that they'll never get her in there for any questioning. I think it was wrong because she had blatant lies, and that's a felony, and she could have at least been charged with a felony, you know, for lying. And they let her go. You know, they completely let her go, and that's what just burns me up so much. I mean, maybe she didn't have anything.
She fulfills all of the requirements of obstruction of justice, like absolutely, positively, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Well, then why would the family allow this?
I don't understand it. I really
think about
don't.
it that way. Maybe we're getting it wrong. Sometimes I do that. I'll play devil's advocate here.
I don't know why the family would allow it. I mean, I would have been furious.
Like there are other things that we don't know that are probably happening behind the scenes.
I don't know. I don't know what could be happening behind the scenes. They say the case is closed. So, and he said, "Stop bothering me" in that video. He just made me sick when he was on his wife's YouTube channel.
I know.
Yeah.
He was so disgusting.
Well, you know, it's interesting proud of how you handled that. Then that should tell you something. If he's defensive about it, then that he doesn't feel confident about it.
Right. And then his wife, she's a victim in all this. I'm like, she is the least victim in all of this. There are 3 people dead that are the victims, not this witch.
Oh,
or whatever.
No.
She's not a victim. And she sat there in those interviews. So
family.
And then she get real low, talking real low. And then she go back to her little chit voice again. And it was just, you know, 3 people are dead. You know, you dated the man who killed these people. You should be serious, somber, crying. You know, what would you do if you dated a person who did that to his family? You wouldn't be
hysterical. It'd be hysterical. Like, take everything, read everything, just figure out what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I was even a part of this. Like, here's my phone, here's everything. Nothing has been deleted.
Take it
just
all,
leave me out of it. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it.
Right.
What the fuck? You know, you'd just be like out of your mind.
What a person would do. That is what.
Like, what the fuck?
You wouldn't erase
everything.
It's complete.
Yes. Take my blood, take my hair, whatever you need. Just
whatever you need, take it.
Yeah. Now, Lily Rose here says, Rourke actually said that people still reach out constantly. Yes, he did, Lily Rose. He said the reason that they made all the docs available is because they never could have handled all the requests for discovery. And I think your point here, Lily Rose, is then what does that tell you, Rourke? Because we're not going to stop. I mean, he is supposed to be, you know, serving the people. And if what the people want is a proper investigation, that's what they should have. I mean, if there already was one and the results were whatever they were and people just didn't like it, that's one thing. But there never was a proper investigation. And here, I just want to play you this little bit from Dr. Phil. What you guys were talking about, you know, why did the family let this happen? And, you know, I think this is why this one episode of, you know, The Devil Beside Me was absent from his selection of, you know, podcasts that you could listen to for a while. But listen to what he says about what the family said about Nichol Kessinger. Now, the timing here is important because these podcasts were put out, they were made in the end of 2018, right after this tragedy happened. They were being produced and published in early 2019. When did the prison interview with Chris Watts happen? In early 2019, in February of 2019. And was simultaneous, more or less, when this podcast was released, where you're going to hear the sound clip from, and when Chris Watts' prison interview happened, when he said, you know, yes, I killed all 3 of them, and the family apparently learned that Cece and Bella had to endure that horrific ride with her dead mother in the vehicle from Saratoga Trail to Survey 319. But listen to what he said at that time.
Guy.
Okay, here.
Met at work.
Confession. This is actually the way to Survey 319, by the
Now,
way.
Chris and Nicole met at work, and sparks flew. They soon began an affair, but according to Nicole, she was not aware that this was an affair, or that she was the mistress, that she was the other woman. She says she thought she was dating a guy who was in the midst of a mostly amicable divorce. Once news of Shanann's disappearance spread, Nicole had gone to police of her own free will to speak to them about her involvement with Chris. But was she a hero in this story? Or is it possible, like Shannon's parents believe to this day, that she tried to help Chris? And when it all started coming unraveled, when it all started hitting the wall, she got scared and bailed. Was she actually helping him and got cold feet and decided, save yourself, girl?
And I don't want to see this come over my phone anymore. So I removed it.
So
Girl. She was never arrested or charged. However, is there more than meets the eye with Nicole? Sure, she had been helping police. It seemed like she was on their side and not her lovers. She had told them all about Chris and Shannon's many issues. She told them Chris had confided in her that he was no longer in love. She said he talked about living alone. She basically handed them his motive on a silver platter. But Nicole also told police she had no idea that Chris and Shanann were expecting a baby.
Bullshit.
Baby number 3. She says as far as she knew, their marriage was kaput. Now, there are thousands of armchair detectives who passionately followed this story who just were not satisfied with that explanation, and they never said it. But it appeared to people following the case closely that the police weren't exactly satisfied with that explanation.
Okay, so now getting to the jailhouse recording.
Damn, I didn't play the part where he said that people suspected that Nichol Kessinger was guilty of much more, and so did Shanann's family. I swear to God, it said in there. I just didn't put it in the video. I can't believe I didn't do that. But it said in that part of the Dr. Phil episode. And that was right around the time that he was in contact with the family and he was interviewing the family. So certainly he would know. So I said in this video, then between episode 3 and episode 4, wait a minute, let me see if it's here.
Things from Dodge Correctional Facility and
just great. Wanted like a work on and stuff like that. And then she's like, what's all this weed stuff become? We just kind of flirting at first.
I don't know, but between episode 3 and episode 4, all of a sudden things change because you know why? The February 2019 prison interview happened. The family learned what really happened to Bella and Celeste. And all of a sudden, my opinion is they then changed their mind about wanting to, go after Nicole or have her charged with anything because they were so, irately inflamed with Chris for what he put their grandchildren through. And I think that is precisely what explains why the R family did not pursue charges against Kessinger. I'm sure of it. Does that make sense? Friends? Where'd you guys go? Where's my panel?
We're here.
Okay, cool. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to put that forth. So I think that's the answer.
Real.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to keep up with chat too. You have a lot of good comments.
Oh, I know. It's hard, isn't it? What do you think, Kind Colorado? Oh, let's see. You're muted. I don't know if you need to unmute yourself or if you just took a break or something, sweetheart. Oh, goodness.
So Dr. Phil deleted this, right?
Yeah, but it's back now. It was deleted for a while, but it's back.
Why do you think it went away in the first place?
Because of what I just said. Because I think that I think in that one particular, in that episode only, he incriminated Nichol Kessinger. And, again, it was between when that episode 3 and came out. And then there was a February 2019 prison interview with Chris Watts. And then, he interviewed the R family. They changed their mind about a lot of things because I really do believe that is when they learned that Bella and Cece had to endure that horrible ride to Survey 319 with their dead mother in the car and how, in fact, their lives ended at Survey 319. I can't even imagine how horrific that was for those poor souls to hear about that
on
and,
live TV.
Well, no, they heard about it before. It wasn't on live TV.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you're
They
right.
heard about it from the investigators first. My God, that would be absolutely cruel. But he talked to them
Imagine.
shortly thereafter. And
Oh no, they heard about it in the courtroom.
What do you mean?
When they were sentencing.
No. When they heard about what really happened, and it wasn't until the February 2019 prison interview with Chris Watts did he talk about the fact that he actually killed Bella and Celeste, and he detailed it, in grotesque detail about how he put one of their hands over the girl's mouth and the other one like this, and Bella's head was twisting and turning, and
Yes,
maybe
okay. Yes.
so they did not know. Nobody knew about that.
Yeah,
That
no,
those
you're
words
right. You're
were not
right.
uttered to the world until February 19th. So that's the significance. The
Yes.
episode 3 came out where Dr. Phil said that Shanann's parents, believe that Nichol Kessinger did a lot more, and they're waiting for justice. And then the February 2019 interview came out where they learned all of that. Because remember, prior to that, law enforcement told them that all 3 of them perished at the house, and that they all, when Chris left the house in the truck, all of their deceased bodies were in that truck that went to Survey 319. This must have, I can't even imagine how this would have shaken their world.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Phil's episode 4 came out, and all of a sudden, no more talk about Nichol Kessinger.
Yes, that's true. Also, Kind Colorado asks that you unmute her.
Oh, yeah, of course, sweet. Oh, I didn't realize I did mute you. Yes, here you go, dear.
No, but yes, you're right. I was mistaken.
Wait just one sec. Oh, I'm trying to
The
unmute
timing
you.
says it all.
Kind Colorado, you need to unmute yourself, honey. So it's, yeah, I didn't mute anyone. It says that it's telling me, it says can't unmute your guests because they chose to mute themselves.
Oh, okay.
If you want to hop down and hop back up, you can certainly do that too. And also, I got Sis Vicious here, so I'm going to let her come on up too. So let's welcome Sis Vicious as well. Hey, Sis Vicious, how are you doing, sweetheart?
Hey, I'm good.
So wonderful to hear your voice.
Oh,
Hi,
always
sis.
a pleasure. Hey, Ara. Yeah, I wasn't gonna come up, but I just felt triggered for a second when Kelly brought up Work's interview on his podcast.
Triggers us all.
Oh my God. I think you and I talked a little bit about this, but I can't remember exactly. But there was something in that just bothered me so much about, and I just wanted to say this, and you can move on from there. I know you're talking about something different now, but
that's okay.
It was so irritating to me. For one, just like how dismissive he was to literally everyone that had questions about this case. I don't think that. I think it would be impossible for people just to be satisfied at face value, and I think the expectation of that is just that's more puzzling to me than the way that the investigation was handled to begin with. But I was so irritated because he was so sure that he knew all the facts. He was so sure of all these things like related to NK, but then in another breath he was talking about Shanann, and he said she used to post a lot on social media. I think it was Instagram or maybe Facebook. And that really stood out to me because it's like, okay, dude, if you don't know for sure that it was Facebook all the time, always, no matter what. And I'm sure she had an Instagram too, privately, but her main thing was posting on Facebook. And for you to get something that well-known wrong, it's like, dude, okay, so how are you so sure of everything
may
else?
I offer
let her finish.
No, it's okay. I just thought that was like so goofy and such a ridiculous thing to say, but then in the next breath you're like arguing how everyone else is wrong for like questioning all these things. It's like, dude, you can't even remember something so material and so basic to the case, and in fact about one of the victims. Like, I don't know, it was the whole interview was so off-putting to me. But
you know how the girls had the glowing long blonde hair and they were doing cartwheels in the living room. Those girls, neither of them, I never seen them do a cartwheel. I don't think they could. Neither Bella was not strong enough. Cece, I think, was a little too gravity bound, and they certainly did not have long glowing blonde hair.
Yeah, just like silly things like that. That was another thing. The whole thing was so off-putting. Yeah, or sorry.
No. It's
You know
because you
that.
just brought up such a good point. No, like literally, yes. You brought up such a good point because what were you saying that what was your point again? Because I can tell you, because he was talking about Facebook and Instagram and like he was getting it wrong about where she was posting.
Yeah, he couldn't even remember. He said it so
Oh.
blasé, like, well, it was either Facebook or one of those. Like, dude,
Would
come
consider
on.
this. Do you think that he was actually he was doing that on purpose to see if Nichol would correct him and say, oh, like, no, it was just Facebook. Like he was trying to maybe get her to admit that she was following.
Wait, this was
Shanann.
August of 2023, though.
But he was,
or April 2023.
He was trying to get her to admit that she was actually looking at her post on Facebook. You know what I mean?
I think he was. I don't think he came there to talk about Shanann at all. I think he came there to talk about himself and to do exactly what he did, which was tell the entire world or whoever was listening to leave him alone. He didn't care what anyone had to say. The case is what it was. And that was the end of it. And people just need to get over it. And I've said this 1,000 times on Kelly's channel. I will always say it again. I don't think there's a woman anywhere that could look at the way this case is handled and not have questions, because God forbid one of us find ourselves in a situation similar. How are you going to be satisfied knowing that this is the level of professionalism and expertise you can expect in the event of your unfortunate demise? Let's be real here. You've got, you know, and it's sad too, because it is one of those things that just never goes away. And for the victims' families, it has to be so upsetting. I'm exceptionally sensitive to that. However, I think we can all look objectively and say this was massively insufficient and inadequate. And again, you have Chris going to his not trial, but sentencing, essentially convicted for things he never even confessed to, and things that they never even, you know, took the time to build a case that could be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. There's so many swabs that were never tested. There was so much evidence that wasn't collected. They answered
nothing
questions
from inside his truck.
He's answering questions that no one asked. The questions that were asked weren't answered. Where's the case?
And Rourke accepted a plea deal without him giving a full, complete, or accurate confession, without even, you know, putting on the table, you know what, before we allow you to plead, dude, you have to tell us, you have to tell the family, you have to tell the world, you have to own up to it and tell us what you did. Like, that is unheard of. That is when I remember I told you guys I was talking to my dad about it, and then we were later on talking about this again, and we were miscommunicating with each other. And the reason was this: we found out after we were like, what the frick are you talking about? That he assumed after not doing that Rourke lost his position because of, like, you know, failure to properly prosecute.
Well, right. And, you know, that's usually one of the hallmarks of taking a plea to avoid, you know, DP. Well,
he's like, that would not be allowed.
I hope he's getting
I'll tell you that
lots
right
of
now.
DP where he's at, but you know what I'm saying? Like, as far as a sentence, they usually make you give a full confession.
And that was his exact point. He couldn't believe that he didn't make him give a full confession, and then he accepted the plea deal, and he didn't have to step down as DA or even be disbarred for failure to properly prosecute such an important case.
And for the families, the only thing that they really have is an incomplete discovery and incomplete, you know, investigation and incomplete interviews. Their questions will never be answered because that was the last opportunity to get them. So who are you helping here, my guy? And also, too, I think it's almost a re-victimization for the families, because now they go back and they publicize this interview that they got in Wisconsin, and they get a completely different story than the first one that they've gotten. And, you know, their chance of any truth or peace, you know, regardless of what they say, you know, the Watts family are victims too. Everyone still has all these questions. that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is to alleviate further harm to the families,
Absolutely.
to garner peace and to garner some resolution, and regardless of how awful the story is, it's so that they have the information, what happened to their family members. You know,
Because
maybe
after
you
all,
get a reason
resolve
why
is
or
what our whole
not, but
justice system is about. Yeah.
right. And you don't want there to be more questions at the resolution than there were prior
Exactly.
to, because prior to was these, well, this and this, that. Then you have this conflicting confession from him. They just accept it, throw him away. Then they go revisit him. Then you get a whole bunch. I mean, there's literally more questions here than it was at the very beginning.
It's like the undoing of justice, not
it's the undoing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just makes my
Amen,
ass itch.
sister.
Like, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And I think like the Wisconsin interview, in all honesty, is probably the closest version to any truth that we'll get.
Yes,
But I think that the information that was omitted or straight up lied about, provably, I think that's where the truth lives. And I don't know why. I don't know. You know, there's a million things that we'll probably never really know about this case, but there was a very concerted effort, I think, from the beginning to not proper. And I mentioned this in chat earlier too. You know, like, let's say, you know, Chris was deleting text messages with Shanann and all that too. He said in the Wisconsin interview that he didn't delete anything that NK told him to. And it was so stupid because they're like, wait, she told you to delete them. They didn't even know that. He willingly gave that information.
Right.
And he never deleted anything. But where was that in the discovery? Because all we saw as far as like text threads were the bits that they happened to air quote recover from her device. If they were all there for everyone to see that he didn't delete, where was that in the discovery?
That's right. And as I had told you guys many times before, my friend Alex, who's a defense attorney, talked to someone who's very close to the case. And I can't remember if I told you who actually was suspicious, and I will tell you like offline, but that they deleted every single one of the messages between Kessinger and Chris Watts. And now the scope of the conversation was this: text messages, not possible third-party apps, which I now fully believe were utilized, but just plain old text messages.
Yeah, and the screenshots and the screen grabs that they had, it was from an Android device, I remember, and all the messages were out of order. And I could
they were from Nichol Kessingers when she got her phone back during the August 23rd interview. Remember, she was like, "Oh, all of a sudden, all these random messages are here."
But she said she had an iPhone 6, and Chris had an iPhone because he shared an iCloud account with Shanann. And he also had an iPhone that Anna Darko gave him.
No,
so where's
the phone that they gave her to use was a Droid. So all of a sudden, she turned in her phone. They gave her another phone, and apparently on the phone that they gave her back, that she then sunk with her account, all of these messages then appeared.
Okay, so that makes sense then. But why? So they didn't. I thought what they recovered was bits and pieces, and it was garbled out of order. But you're saying those screenshots that we saw was from the loaner phone they gave her?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have any. Okay, see, and that makes sense. I thought this whole time that was what they recovered.
No, they show nothing from Chris Watts' phone. Not a single damn thing.
No, I'm talking about hers.
When she finally signed in to that other phone, those messages popped up.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
See, and I remember that. I remember that from the interview, but I guess I didn't realize that's what was included in the discovery.
It's confusing,
and she had no choice but to share that.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
See, and they could recover. And if they're gonna sit here like NK outsmarted the FBI, give me a fucking break. They could have recovered what they wanted
but
to
she was very specific about what could be searched and what could not be searched.
Oh, hi,
and remember, they needed her.
Did they though? Because what did she give them?
Yes, they did.
What did she give them?
Probably where they were. That's just my opinion.
I don't think
she didn't give them.
They wanted was to wrap that case up, lickety split. It was on election day when they actually wrapped up the case, November 6th.
Someone from Colorado speaking here.
Sorry, I finally figured out how to get back on here, but so that's what they wanted. They wanted to shut it down super quick. He wants to have his record that he has of 100%
conviction rate, and he knew that Chris was ready to take the plunge for everybody, and it was easy. It was cheap for him. He didn't have to spend a lot of money doing a real investigation, and that's why they did that. And I think
they're gonna let so many guilty people free.
It's wrong. It's completely wrong. But the people who live up there don't care, apparently, because there's not been any type of an uproar. Like if I lived in that county, I'd be out there picketing every day that I had a free day. I'd be
Maybe
picketing
they feel like they can't do it.
and tell him that he needs to be opening this case back up. But you know,
Well,
people
in his wife's podcast, the people that he consulted were, like the person that he was the person his underling there. I can't remember his name, Steve something. At the time, his wife, whatever wife, and then somebody, I can't remember who it was, but somebody that was in a financial position for the county, and the family members. Those were the people he consulted. His underling, his wife, the Ruseks, and the financial dude.
I don't think she gave them darn tootin' and a tinker's damn worth of information that they didn't know or couldn't have gotten elsewhere. I think they had a vested interest to protect her ass from the very start. Why? I don't know why. And if I knew why, we'd probably have more answers to the questions that we're asking, right? But
she was important.
Interviewed her. It was like they were her attorneys, and they never investigated her, and they had made up their mind long before they went to talk.
She made herself important.
That she was a witness. They never ever questioned her as a possible person of interest or suspect.
There was an understanding early on.
She was a witness, exactly, and that happened behind closed doors. And whoever the players that be were the players that be, and she was handled with kid gloves for that very reason. And
that's why in the
where the
recording
bodies were, I don't know. But if she did, I don't think she would have given them that. And
in the recording, it says like we talked before this. Remember,
right?
Like
Oh yeah.
We already went over this.
We already went over this.
Dad nodded to that too. Yeah.
You know, and his questions were so leading. It was like it was like watching F. Lee Bailey with one of his witnesses on the stand, literally feeding her and leading her where he wanted her to go and leading her to the predetermined answers that they had already discussed. The only purpose for that interview, which I use very lightly, was to get it on recording so they had it on record, the narrative that they wanted to spin.
Absolutely.
That's it. That interview, that video that we're seeing is not an interview. They knew from
it's contrived, 100%.
100%. So,
well, Kelly,
that's my opinion. I'm going to mute myself for a second.
I
said I was triggered.
I said I was triggered. I love a triggered suspicious. What's that, Ara?
So the interview with Chris where he says, I wish I would have never gone to the lazy dog. I should have just gone to the game.
Yeah.
Which interview was this? It was a
jailhouse interview.
Like after when he's reflecting.
February of 2019.
I should have just went to the game that night.
Yeah.
And so like just think about it. If that dinner meant nothing, then why?
Oh, I think it certainly meant something, but it's a difference between some people think it's the explosion theory, which I entertained briefly, but some people don't. But I think it's
then why regret going?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that means that it meant something.
I think that's when Nichol Kessinger started really laying down the ultimatum, because Shanann had been home for 2 nights and the girls had been home for 3 nights at that point, and she was not having it. And she was like, you want to be with your girls? Go be with your dinner, then girls. You're not going to be with me,
If he hadn't gone to that dinner, he would have never gotten that ultimatum. That's the night he got an ultimatum. At the Lazy Dog.
I think the ultimatum continued absolutely, positively, and strongly in a completely psychotic way that you do not understand the next night in the 111-minute phone call and whatever.
Yep. Agree. Yeah.
And if she was being passive aggressive, as Deceptive Detective was saying, like she's talking about what she said, but she's not actually being honest about how she said it, right? Her inflection, her frustration. Well, if she's frustrated and saying, well, go fix stuff with your family, blah, 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 but she's sending him nudies at the same time, that's like manipulative at another level. She's guilting you, but then sending you like
Oh, yeah.
images.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean,
It's
that was
very
her
easily
game.
manipulated.
Yeah.
But the thing that I still think she's involved is because he made that agreement to go out to Survey on Monday morning on what was it, Friday? So
Yeah.
that's what I think she knew that something was going to go down and that she might have even been involved in it because he
Yeah.
had the whole weekend to think about, okay, what am I going to do here? I'm going to get rid of Shanann. Maybe he wasn't planning to get rid of the girls, but who knows?
Yeah.
But Saturday is what pissed her off, because on Saturday is when she realized that Chris wasn't going to leave Shanann. That's what I think. I really think that he was gonna back out of it.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I think it's a possibility, at least.
It's a possibility. I don't know. I think he was just a total jerk
He's
at that point.
little
That's no doubt.
worm, like a skeevy little worm.
No
Here's
doubt.
another thing too. Like if we're to buy their timeline, which I'm pretty sure none of us do, but let's say okay, like rewind to a point in your life you've been dating someone for a couple months, right? Okay, so let's be generous and give them like 10 12 weeks, like 3 months. Okay, you guys are bumping uglies 5 times a day. You both have full-time jobs. You wake up at 4:35 in the morning to be at work by 6. You both work out. He's home taking care of the dog, calling Shanann. Unless they have 111 hours a day, when are you guys sleeping? When do you have time to talk about all these things? If I was dating someone for 3 months and they're digging into my 401k and whether or not I have life insurance and like all, like, that is so weird.
Right.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
And again, oh, he never bashed Shanann as a mom. Well, that's great because he just fucking met your ass. Why would he
Right.
be talking to, like, sharing intimate details like that about like your family life? I mean, I can see maybe talking about like, his relationship for a little bit, but for her to know the amount of information that she did, she'd have to be
Right.
standing there. So what's Shanann like at
Yep.
home? Does she cook dinner? What's better, the pasta or the pizza? Like, dude, how many questions are you asking this man that you have so much knowledge of what their finances are like, the bankruptcy, what kind of car she drives, what she does for a living? In the short amount of time that you guys are together, amidst all the other things that you have going on in your lives, it doesn't add up.
No.
It doesn't add up. So I don't know what the motive is again for lying about the timeline, but you will never convince me that these fools started talking in June. Not buying it.
Absolutely. Now, so listen to this regarding, what happened at that dinner, at the Lazy Dog. Now, I think, somebody just in chat said, she found out, or Kessinger found out that night that he hadn't, asked Shanann for a divorce yet or whatever. I personally don't think it rose quite to that level, but I think that she was grilling him about putting the house up for sale and finding an apartment because remember, she told investigators, I couldn't believe when she conceded to this, and I thought this has to mean something because she never concedes to anything. Why would she do this? She told investigators that, on that night when they were talking about, finding a new apartment during the Lazy Dog dinner, that he didn't really seem that into it anymore, and she didn't really understand why. So, look, as soon as she gets home from the Lazy Dog dinner at 10 o'clock, he leaves. Chris Watts leaves her house. 4 minutes later, she's online, and it says, having concluded her evening tryst with Watts, Kessinger searches the internet for topics like Chris Watts, Shanann Watts, Ronnie Watts, and 2825 Saratoga Trail. You know why she searched 2825 Saratoga Trail? Not so some, environmentalist could say, I know where you live, you better go explode something. But because she wanted to know if the house was actually up for sale.
Right,
because
she'd
during
already
that
been there.
conversation,
But why Google Ronnie Watts?
I don't know. I mean, that's like a separate thing, but
you know what I mean? But it's not. It's in the same search.
It's in the same search.
Situation.
But I just want to address what I think happened at the Lazy Dog in that regard. I think,
I'm sorry about that.
Like the deception detective says, I believe her when she says certain things, and I do believe her when she says, that Chris Watts started to be is not quite as interested in looking for an apartment on that night, and I think she was freaking out about it. Now, I also think that she, the way that she was talking to investigators about them looking for an apartment, or her looking for an apartment for him, or them looking for an apartment together for him, she makes it sound like it was happening for weeks and weeks and weeks. Now, I do believe Chris Watts when he says in his prison interview, they ask him, do you, what's this thing about you guys searching, looking for an apartment? And actually, here, let me play you exactly what he says. Because I got it right here. Hold it. Susie, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here, and thank you very much. I appreciate
Curly,
it.
real quick, I just wanted to say before you play this, I think that you're right. And I think that, she probably was feeling that way or getting a sense of him pulling back. And he might have been, in a sense, or had some inner conflict, because it's all, cupcakes and lollipops while Shanann was gone. You can daydream with your new girl, but now your
Sounds
kids
like a
are
cheating meal
home.
to me.
She's coming back. It's like the reality is setting in. And
Exactly.
if nothing else, he's spineless and also arguably lazy. So
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
not
Yeah,
just talking about it
absolutely.
anymore. There's
Yeah.
actually a call for action. And we all know how he handles that. So I agree with you. But
Right.
He
fails
didn't
to show
follow
up.
through his promises.
Exactly. Yep,
Mhm.
exactly. Here, let's see what he says. Throughout a lot of their relationship. And the answer that Chris Watts gives here is very curious. And when you go back and look at what Nichol Kessinger said, oh boy, and you better believe I have a video coming out about that. And I do.
What were the conversations with Nikki as far as at some point you guys were talking about her helping you find an apartment? So what did you guys talk about as far as your future together?
That didn't really happen until like we got back from the beach.
Okay.
So I
So Chris
told her,
Watts says that really didn't just I have to make a couple points here. That didn't really happen until we got back from the beach. Okay. So that was not until August 7th when the murders happened on the 13th. So they weren't, and I believe him here, they weren't looking for an apartment for him like for weeks and weeks, as she describes. He says, that didn't really happen until we got back from North Carolina. So that means, in my opinion, they got back from North Carolina. He was being pressured that whole time that she was in North Carolina. How dare you be laying with another woman, even though it's your wife? But she didn't say that, of course. And be telling me that you love me and whatever. You're just, you're supposed to be with me, but you're with her, even though I told you to go there and work in your relationship. His head was probably spinning, but I just wish he would have woken up and been like, dude, bitch, be crazy. Slap, slap, bitch, slap. I'm getting out of this. It's just such a tragedy that he didn't. But he says they didn't even start talking about looking for apartments until after they got back from North Carolina. And that was on the 7th of August. And just listen to another couple words he has to say here.
like, I lied to her, like, hey, I had talked to Shanann about getting a separation.
I lied to her.
And
I
that
told her I had talked to Shanann about getting a separation.
talk hadn't happened yet.
No, I mean,
Not gonna happen yet. No, I mean,
kind of like, she knew something was going on. I think. I mean, we weren't sleeping in the same room, and then she.
and when he says we weren't sleeping in the same room, he's not talking about 2825 Saratoga Trail, I believe. He's talking about when they were in North Carolina, because we all know they didn't sleep in the same room in North Carolina, because everybody who was interviewed talks about that.
But remember, she
mentioned
talking to him in the basement, which again makes me think they had this going on way before, because if she's gone, there's no point. What are you in the basement for when you have this whole beautiful room and beautiful bed to yourself? You just want to sit down in the freaking cold basement concrete.
Right, like
with
he's
all
down the
junk.
basement and they're yes, that's a really good point.
Like what did Kelly say? You said that the kids were home like a day and a half.
No, Shanann was home a day and a half. The kids were home for a total of 5.
Yeah, and then Nichol is acting like every time that he needs to be with his kids, I let him do that. Like she's been with him longer.
Right.
Yeah. Control Alt Delete. You're a liar.
Right.
and we don't believe you.
Right. Here, wait. I just want to hear what he says.
Yeah,
I think he said something else kind of important here. It's only like another minute at the most.
Like, hey, Colorado's 50-50 state or something like that. And okay, I guess you looked it up.
Okay, so now he's saying that Shanann is telling him, and this is, just since, very recently he's referring to, and Shanann says, Colorado's a 50-50 state. Okay, I guess she looked it up. We know that she did find that out from that lawyer that she talked to a long time ago, but I don't think he knew that. So I think that while Nichol is putting all this pressure on him and all these other things are happening. Shanann is finally being like, hey, buddy, you know what? Colorado's a 50-50 state. And I think that was a big, a big slap in the face of reality for him, because he never in a million years probably thought that Shanann was thinking about actually leaving him. And then I think he started to think about, oh my God, I'm going to lose my kids. I'm going to lose that. I'm going to lose that. I really, truly, in my heart of hearts, believe he was absolutely second guessing his decision to be with Nichol Kessinger and to leave his family on Saturday and Sunday. And Nichol Kessinger was coming in with forces of magnitude in the other direction. And obviously shit blew up, but not in the oil field way, just in the, like human, to the extreme kind of way. See what else he says.
That actual talk, I didn't like that what happened. I was just like, I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah. And so in conversations with Nikki, I get it. I mean, you're telling her like the progress toward the divorce is a little bit more than it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what were you guys planning?
So it was more of like, she's going to help me find a apartment that was affordable. This is kind of just around like Brighton or.
And now, meanwhile, know that Chris Watts, even though he is delusional about a lot of things, he knows that they're headed for a second bankruptcy. He knows that he is not going to be able to afford another apartment. His house of cards is really falling down now. And I really think this is just simply the catalyst for what happened, instead of all these kind of extraneous things and I understand why people build in all these conspiracy theories and stuff, but I just simply think this was a man breaking down with pressure from every direction, obviously in a pathological way, but I believe that's what happened.
Maybe just goes to work for left in or something around there. Doesn't not like where my area was.
Did you talk about moving in with her?
She didn't want that.
She didn't want that. Would you have done that?
Now, see, she didn't want that. Let's go back to what the deception detective said about, him being with his children. She didn't want that. There's no way I believe that Nichol Kessinger didn't want to be living with Chris Watts. I think the reason she didn't want that was she was like, you know what? If you're going to have to spend all this time with your kids and you're going to have to be, seeing Shanann still, so you can bring the kids here and bring the kids here and exchange the kids. I'm not going to be around for all that. I'm going to be doing my own thing. You, buddy, can be doing that all on your own. Good effing luck.
Not if she would have been cool with that.
And I think,
sorry. What's that?
I said this a while ago. I've said this many times, but I think that too is so indicative of his plan. He's so diabolical, but if you listen, anytime he talked about moving out or having a place or space for the girls, or Nichol too, they never once, either of them, mention Nico in that picture of life after divorcing Shanann, if that was his plan, or separating. He never once mentioned it either. It was always the girls, which I think was obviously they're already here, but I think he planned long ago something, to happen with Shanann. And again, the fact that they were family planning and expanding, which I think he was seeing her way at that time too. And if you remember, she even talked to that divorce attorney at that dinner. So something had been going on long before, and he has his slip up in that interview. I think it was in Wisconsin when he says, well, until I met Nikki, I didn't realize that there was anything wrong with my relationship with Shanann.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well,
he did
if you were malingering and masking any contempt that you had for her to the point that nothing was wrong, or you weren't showing that anything was wrong, what was she so unsatisfied with way back then?
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
Doesn't add up. So sorry.
Yes. It's a good point. It's a great point.
Yeah, totally. No, you guys are all making really good points, and I just wish we had answers. D.A. Rourke, you MRFer. It's all his fault.
Well, his actions speak for himself, right? What happened with that podcast or whatever?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for D.A., I don't have any more questions about D.A. Rourke. He can head off the face of this earth. As far as this not being properly investigated, I mean, really, it all does go back to him. And for that, he will pay.
And how he acted.
But I blame all the investigators too, because the DA is a fact finder, I guess, for what the investigators bring them in the case for what he can prosecute or what he can't. But it's the job of the investigators. And again, between all these agencies, You know, you've got the
Yeah,
CBI,
yeah,
you've
it's
got the
true.
FBI, you've got Weld County, all these people. Where's the checks and balances? Yes, he's the final determiner of what case he's going to bring or not
Right.
bring, but the investigation was incomplete from the beginning. And that interview that Tammy Lee did, that they basically were told to stop, and she didn't feel
Yeah.
like they had gotten enough information. And I'll give you another example. What was that other little
Well, it tells you a lot about the power that that office
empanada?
has, despite public opinion.
What was the little homie that came out and said he had a like homosexual relationship with Chris Watts?
Oh,
Trump, yes. They grilled him to the tits about everything that he said. Where's the
Oh
same
my
energy
God.
when it comes with NK? If you look
I
at the way they questioned
know.
him versus the way they questioned her, someone
Goes to show
factually
that
who they
Lisa
knew
Tammy
was
Lee and
involved.
Coder can interview, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So again, it's like, okay, here's someone random coming out. They actually did their due diligence in checking
Yeah.
and fact finding and talking to
Yeah.
his mom and the people in the relationship. Well, this person says that they weren't in a relationship with you, like blah, 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 blah. They literally interrogated the bejesus out of him. So you can't tell me that they're just incompetent. It was a choice.
Right. Right. It was a choice. You're right. I just like to blame DA Rourke right now because I'm so angry at him after listening to that damn podcast.
Yes, I agree. It's like, who are you? What are you doing?
You should
Yes.
do a live and listen to that sometimes. I think a lot of people haven't
Yeah,
heard it or
when
seen
I
it.
did do a live about it, I was afraid to listen to too much of it because that's when what's her face was going around and striking everybody. But I'm not afraid anymore. Kim freaking Cobalt, whatever your name
Yeah,
is.
fair
Rourke.
use, effer.
The fact that you're coming after people says a lot. That you're coming
Yeah.
after people that play it, that says a lot.
Yeah. Mike
Yeah.
some good. Her views are kind of.
I know. Well, guys, I think I'm going to wrap this up because we're at 2.5 hours now, and I'm just getting a little sleepy. But thank you guys so much for coming up on Pale Kind Colorado, R and Sis Vicious. Thank all of you guys so much, and I hope you just jump down because you want to, Kind Colorado. We really appreciate you, and I appreciate you guys too. And thank you for sharing everything. Do you guys have any final thoughts that you want to share?
Thank you for having me up here, and good to see you, sis.
Of course. Are you going to be doing a live stream anytime soon, Ara?
I might do an after party because this is an interesting topic.
Awesome. Then if you want to put the link in chat, please do. And everybody, Ara might be doing an after party. So for all of you after party people, head over there. And I'll probably try to pop in if you do because I don't have work tomorrow. But as far as talking, my talker is about done.
Yeah, I get a little excited, but
no, I love hearing your thoughts.
Discussion is good.
Yeah. What are your final thoughts?
Passionate. Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts are the same as they've always been. I don't think that we're ever going to get the truth. I don't think that we're ever going to get anything beyond what people, you know, it's so contrived and it's so constructed carefully. And, you know, what they want us to know and see or believe is what we'll get. And everything else is left to question. So, but, you know, I guess my final thought is when everyone has the same questions or when everyone has the same issues, you know, it's not everyone else. And I don't appreciate being made to feel like we're all just a bunch of, you know, tinfoil hat dodos because we have
You hear that, Rourke?
It's
You hear that, Rourke? We're not a bunch of tinfoil hat dodos.
Come at me, bro. No, I'm gonna hop off though, Kelly. Always a pleasure.
Oh, awesome. Thank you guys so much. And Karen G, hey, Karen asks, is there still also going to be a Friday night live stream? Yes, there is. This is a bonus because my spring break starts today. Woo-hoo. Do you have spring break, Ara?
I don't, but I just had it, but I have a 3-day weekend.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Well, that's good too. Awesome. Yeah.
But you need to enjoy your spring break, Kelly. You literally deserve it.
I will.
More than anyone that I know.
Oh, well, thank you. I so much appreciate that, sweetie. But I will definitely do the Friday night live stream because I look forward to it, and I know a lot of other people do. So we will reconvene back here tomorrow night. And I think Ara is going to be doing an after party. Do you have a link for that yet or not yet, Ara?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, of course. And I'll do a little outro so there's a little time left so you can get your stuff together and post it.
Well, I'm going to be playing your stuff.
Awesome.
Probably.
Awesome. Yeah, whatever you want. You can always use my stuff. I don't care. You don't have to ask me. Whatever you want to do is fine.
And one day I want to get together with you and talk about his analysis of Sam.
Yes, definitely. Do you want to do that on your channel, right? Just let me know when you want to do it. We'll have to just schedule it. Then I'll start to be able to organize my thoughts and get something together.
I think a lot of people would be interested in that because you and I agree on like Deception Detective's analysis of Nichol. Like he actually does a really good job. And I want to get your reaction to what he did with Sam, Sam's interview, you know? I think you would be
okay. Yeah. Do you want me to do that on this channel or do you want to do it on how do you want to do it?
wherever you want to do it. I just want to discuss that with you. I think that would be very insightful.
All right. Well, let's talk about that over the next couple of days and we'll get something on the books.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, sweetie. Love you. Have a good after party.
Bye.
All right. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, moderators. You are the absolute bomb. I know you work really hard when it comes to Chris Watts, especially. I think chat was pretty good tonight, right? So thank you guys, everybody. Members, new members, subscribers, viewers. And then, hey, if you aren't a subscriber yet, just subscribe. Check us out again. I know we want you to come back. If you're still here, we definitely want you to come back. No, we don't kick a whole lot of people out. You have to be pretty nasty. Because we welcome all opinions and, views. It's what makes the world go round. And again, tomorrow night, Friday night, there is going to be a Friday night Watts the Obsession live stream because it's date night and I wouldn't miss my date with you guys. And then on Sunday, there's going to be a members only live stream of some sort in the evening. And then I might take a few days off since it is my spring break. But right now, I'm enjoying being with you guys. And I hope you guys all had a really good night. And thank you so very much for being here.
It's me. You guys just call me back when you have a chance. Hi. Hi. It's me. I miss your face. I was just calling to say hi. Call me back.
Thank you so much for coming out here with me, Christopher. I am having a wonderful time. You mean a lot to me, and I'm glad that you're having a blast. I am so out of breath.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm really trying to help you guys. I need you guys to help me too. Like,
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
do this as a team, but just don't
So
fucking let me down,
the
please.
reason why we can't, like, I did think about this yesterday that I would like to sit down with you once we have your text messages and the phone calls, and we can put them in a some type of easily looking, that we can sit down and look at them and compare them, and we can kind of get the context of how everything was going that night. I would like to do that with you. Unfortunately, so the download that we got yesterday is going to take multiple days to be analyzed. I probably won't have it back till next week. And then because you guys did have so many text messages, one of my analysts is working on getting those in order, so we can put something together where we can actually sit down and discuss it. But I do think that's something that I want to do in the near future, sometime probably next week.
I mean, I can do that. I don't mind giving you guys my time. I just need you guys to like help me with my employer and try to just help me brace for this media thing.
I'm with you. We definitely need to accelerate the case because the more it takes, the less sure that they are of situations.
He murdered her. She's out of the picture. You're never going to know if she was pregnant. If he can get away with murder, you're not going to. I got divorced from my wife. You say, do you understand what I'm saying here? If she's gone,
Don't lead.
Hypothetically,
please.
Yeah.
Don't
Hypothetically,
lead on.
if she, you understand where I'm going. If
Right,
you
but you're-
didn't know,
You're leading into questions that are nothing with your.
if you didn't know though,
Wait, Nick.
that she was there.
Did you hear what I said?
I'm following you.
Stop asking about it. She didn't have anything to do with it. She wasn't there that morning. She voluntarily cooperated with law enforcement. She provided us all the information. I'm not going to tell you where she's at. Stop. Leave me alone.